So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was a stealth master. Part 1. If you guys enjoy this, what if, and you want to see part 2, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends. And check out the description. And check out my playlist. So let's start the video. Chapter 1. Captured. The Sandaime Hokage looked at the thief with a weary eye. The boy before him just had his head down and stood quietly in the grip of a pair of Anbu. He could not believe it had come to this. Barely 2 days before, the boy in front of him had painted the stone faces on the mountain, and now he was captured trying to steal the most valuable scroll in Konoha. "What am I going to do with you, Naruto?" the aged leader slowly said. "Why would you betray me and all of Konoha like this?" Uzumaki Naruto looked up at the disappointed face of the one man who was important to him in the entire village. "But Mizuki-sensei said it was a make-up test. He told me if I could bring him the scroll I would become a genin." The Hokage narrowed his eyes on Naruto. "You mean your teacher told you to do this?" Naruto nodded. "I couldn't make a bunshin so I failed. He told me to pass a make-up test I would have to sneak in here and take the big scroll. If I could do that and learn one on the scroll and show him that I could do it and he would pass me. Did I do something wrong?" The boy looked up with tears in his eyes as he realized from the look in the Hokage's face that he had in fact done something wrong. He had betrayed the trust of his most important person. Sarutobi looked at the blonde boy again and saw the boy was telling the truth. He could not simply destroy the legacy of the fourth based solely on him following the commands of a superior. But he did need to know for certain that the real criminal was captured. "Naruto, you will wait here with these Anbu. I will go check on something." "Where exactly did Mizuki tell you to wait for him?" Mizuki chuckled as he headed for the meeting point. There had been no alarm sounded, so that means the demon had not gotten caught. There had been no sign of any traps being sprung, so the demon had to have opened the scroll safely. All that remained now was to gather up the item and kill the demon. This would surely buy his way into Orochimaru's graces once more. He looked down from his perch to see the blonde demon sitting and reading the open scroll. He chuckled before leaping down near the blonde. "Good job, Naruto. You got the scroll, I see. Very good job indeed. Now, just roll it up and back away," Mizuki told the blonde. "But Mizuki-sensei, I managed to learn a technique like you told me to. Does that mean I get to be a genin now?" Mizuki laughed. "You actually believed me? Kami, you are a stupid demon." "Demon? Why are you calling me a demon, Mizuki-sensei? Haven't you ever wondered why people shun you, Naruto? It is because you are responsible for the slaughter of so many 13 years ago. You are the nine-tailed fox trapped in human form. I am going to take that scroll and kill you now. I will have revenge for my family," Mizuki screamed out. The blonde did not look afraid or upset at Mizuki's outburst. In fact, he stood up and looked very disappointed. "You should really know better than that, Mizuki. But I think we have heard enough, would you not agree, Hokage-sama?" "Indeed we have, Hiruka, indeed we have." Sarutobi stepped out from behind the building along with a team of Anbu. The blonde Naruto puffed with chakra smoke revealing Naruto's other teacher, Hiruka. Sarutobi spoke again. "You are under arrest, Mizuki. If you resist, these Anbu will strike you down. Cooperate and you might actually be free to see your fiancée Tsubaki again one day." Mizuki paused hearing his betrothed's name and surrendered quietly. Sarutobi sighed and stood next to Iruka as the Anbu led off Mizuki. "Now comes the hard part, Iruka. I have to decide what to do with Naruto. I appreciate your help in this matter and trust your silence. I know Naruto has become important to you." "Yes, he is Hokage-sama. I had been out looking for him since I could get away from work. I was going to treat him to raiment since he failed his genin test. He tried so hard but he cannot seem to make a bunshin. I could even see the effort and I could have sworn I saw chakra around him right before he made a badly deformed clone," Iruka said. "Wait, you said you saw chakra around the boy during his test?" Iruka nodded affirmatively. "But for chakra to be visible like that would indicate." Sarutobi trailed off his statement as he looked back toward his office. "Iruka, come with me. I want to have you there when I talk to Naruto again." Iruka nodded and followed as Sarutobi leapt back toward the Hokage tower. The Anbu stood watch over Naruto as the boy sat in his misery. The woman in the cat mask was familiar to Naruto as she had been one of his many silent watchers over the years. He had tried to speak to them on occasion, but they always shook their heads at him and indicated they were not permitted to speak to him before falling back into the shadows. She sighed softly behind her mask as this was not a duty she would have liked at any time. She could clearly see the boy had great potential, but somewhere along the line, something had gone wrong. She could sense chakra from him at a level she would envy. She had filed reports often enough about the pranks he had pulled and his skills in planning and evasion were easily level. She assumed no one felt the boy was worth the effort. It really was a shame. The Hokage entered the meeting room followed by Iruka with some files. Kat nodded silently acknowledging Sarutobi's presence and moved to wait in the corner. Naruto looked up from where he sat and paled at seeing his primary instructor there as well. He flushed and tried to hide in his seat as Sarutobi sat and motioned for Iruka to sit as well. Naruto, what you told me earlier tonight was entirely correct. Mizuki himself did admit to telling you to come here and take the scroll. In this village, we do not lay the blame on the subordinates for following what they believe to be the legal orders of their superiors. Therefore, you are not to be charged with treason. You trusted Mizuki and he betrayed you. Naruto, I am disappointed in your actions, but you have not betrayed my trust. Sarutobi smiled gently at Naruto. The boy smiled weakly and a few tears ran down his expressive face. Yes, he needed that reassurance. In spite of all his bravado, he is a fragile boy. Iruka opened the file with Naruto's name on it. Naruto's grades in the academy are definitely not the best, Hokage-sama. He has failed the exit examination 3 times now. His grades show him as poor in Taijutsu, poor in ninjutsu, inadequate in, poor in throwing weapons, inadequate in tracking and evasion, inadequate in stealth, poor in written work. I thought Naruto was doing much better than that in his grades. Sarutobi glanced over at Naruto who wilted slightly under the glare. Begging the Hokage's pardon, Kat spoke up. Yumino-san is incorrect in Uzumaki-san's ability in stealth, tracking and evasion. I personally have observed several of his pranks and other Anbu would concur with me that for his training level, his rank should be outstanding. Sarutobi looked over at Kat, equal parts of concern and dismay at her information. Are you sure, Kat? He inquired. As I said, Hokage-sama Uzumaki-san has shown outstanding ability in regards to stealth, tracking and evasion in his many dealings with the after effects of his pranks. Normally, it takes over a half dozen working in concert to corral him. We Anbu, who are assigned to observe him, remain away from such things as ordered by you. The sole exception to the trouble in capturing Uzumaki-san is Yumino-san here. He can apprehend the boy on his own. We feel that it is a deliberate action on Uzumaki-san's part in those cases. There have even been cases where he has managed to elude his Anbu watchers for up to 5 minutes as well. He normally is quite aware of our presence nearby, but rarely the exact location. We put that awareness to experience and some innate ability. Iruka, who is the person grading Naruto in the areas of stealth, tracking and evasion. Mizuki, Hokage-sama, and Iruka responded. Pat, why is this the first I am hearing about such an ability on behalf of Naruto? It has been documented in many reports submitted by myself and others, Hokage-sama. We all assumed you knew and were not showing favoritism in regard to Uzumaki-san. His pranks cause ill will for himself, even if they are just attempts at attention. Sarutobi frowned deeply and almost growled as he rose and stalked out of the office. He returned minutes later carrying several files, all labeled Uzumaki Naruto. He passed one to Kat and asked, is this one of your reports? Kat briefly scanned the report. It was regarding a prank by Naruto 2 weeks prior. This is not the report I submitted, Hokage-sama. The general wording is mine, but many details have been edited out and the amount of damage incurred has been altered. In this incident, only a single vendor's cart was touched, not a half dozen as the report states. There was no damage to the vendor's wares and this report states near complete destruction. Sarutobi had a true frown on his face now. Your reports all go through Koga-san, Kat. Yes, Hokage-sama. He is one of Danzo's former root members. It seems several people are trying to get Naruto into bad graces all over. But one rabbit might have flushed one another out for me. Danzo has a standing request to have Naruto assigned to his training program. I have consistently forbidden such a thing. The fourth would roll in his grave if I did that to Naruto. Sarutobi sighed. Kat, round up several of the others who have filed reports on Naruto whom you trust. In the morning, I want you all to go over all of your past reports filed on Naruto in my office over the past 2 years. I wish to know the truth of what they say against what you actually wrote. Naruto, tomorrow we are going to have all of your skills re-evaluated by people I trust in all the areas not taught by Iruka alone. Be back here at noon tomorrow. I'll escort Naruto home and bring him back here in the morning, Hokage-sama, Iruka offered. Sarutobi just nodded. The teacher led his student out of the building. Come stay at my house tonight, Naruto. Things are going to be bad tomorrow and keeping a close eye on you might be the best thing right now. Why are things going to be bad, Iruka-sensei? Asked Naruto. Because some people have done the worst possible thing to do in Konoha, they intentionally lied to the Hokage. It also looks like they did the second worst as well. What is that? They put it in writing. Chapter 2. Discoveries. Koga walked into his office to begin another boring day of work. Being a secretary in the Hokage Tower was not a glamorous job for a former ninja and root agent, but he could think of worse. At least the new academy class graduating would mean he could funnel a few of the more promising of the true test failures to his master Danzo en route. He saw a lower-ranked secretary waiting there for him, behind his desk. "Ah, Koga-san. Hokage-sama is waiting for you to discuss your new job. I was assigned to take over your old job this morning. It seems you are being promoted." Koga was surprised but pleased. He did work hard at his job. It was good to hear that his efforts would be rewarded. Smiling to himself, he hurried up the stairs to find out where his new position would be. Koga arrived at the top of the tower to wait for a few minutes before the Hokage's main secretary to usher him into the Hokage's office. He bowed before the Hokage and waited as Sarutobi pulled out a scroll and a pair of folders from his pile of paperwork. "Ah, Koga-san. I am glad you came up here so promptly. We need a quality man to fill a new position that just opened up in our liaison office with the daimyo, and your name was brought to my attention. I am flattered by Hokage-sama. May I ask what the new position entails?" "Of course. Just a moment." Sarutobi turned to his intercom. "Could you bring in that tea and coffee I had asked for earlier, Yum?" "Of course Hokage-sama," the secretary replied in a pleasant voice. Koga paid no attention to the door opening behind him. Suddenly, he stiffened as he lost all control of his movements. A blond man wearing a vest stepped in front of him and made a hand sign before his face. "Yamanaka. I must." "Ah, Inoichi, Shikaku, right on time. Inoichi, please have Koga-san be seen leaving the main gate toward the capital. I do not want Danzo and his cronies getting wind that one of his spies has been caught just yet. I will have the paperwork of his mission filed immediately. Once Koga is seen leaving, get him to Ibiki as soon as you can." Pat sat in the file room with 3 other masked Anbu operatives. The Hokage's secretary, Yum, had shown them the correct cabinet with reports that mentioned the Uzumaki boy. Dozens of incident reports filled 2 drawers in a single cabinet. Kat looked through the cabinet and pulled out the one she had personally filed reports on. She glanced at the first one and shook her head as she saw the large amounts of editing that had been done to her report. She took out a pad of paper and began to take notes. The file she was reading was about a stink bomb incident months before. The noxious substance Naruto had used did in fact cause a store to close while the air was blown out of the building. The owner had thrown Naruto out for simply asking how much something cost a day earlier. Pat distinctly recalled the foul odor and that it had done nothing beyond fouling the air. But the damage report was severely inflated beyond closing the store. It showed that an acidic compound had been used and damaged a large portion of the man's wares. The Hokage office, being officially responsible for Naruto, had authorized payment to replace the damaged goods. Kat was impressed by the amount listed. She looked into several other prank cases and noticed in all cases that money was being paid out for damages that had never happened. She listed every amount on her pad. The other operatives noticed what she was writing and began calling out the bogus damage payouts from their reports. After all the reports from the past 2 years alone were tallied, an impressive amount was listed. Wow, if he had actually done the damage these reports listed, we would not have a market district. There is enough money being siphoned out to pay several high-level ninja a hefty salary, Kat thought. This would not happen if the Hokage was not swamped by so many reports each day. Koga has been able to falsify reports for possibly years now. He is not living above the means for his position, so the money is going somewhere else. That is something else for Ibiki to find out. Pat gathered her notes and set off for the Hokage's office. The secretary, Yum, waved Kat directly in to see Sarutobi. Kat bowed then began her report. "Hokage-sama, my fellows and I have examined many reports on Naruto's pranks over the last 2 years. Our preliminary findings are that a pattern of falsehood exists in the reports and that monetary damages being paid out by the treasury exceed any real damage by a factor of 100 or more. In fact, from our own recollections, any damage actually incurred was more from people panicking than from malicious behavior on Naruto's part. Our knowledge of his pranks shows that they are intended to annoy and disrupt rather than hurt anyone or anything." Sarutobi nodded slowly, that last bit falling in line with Naruto's character. He is starved for attention, and even negative attention is better than none. Koga will have a lot to answer for, but we must move quickly. He will be missed soon. Kat, find Kakashi and tell him I need his old team for a secret mission. I will see him this afternoon once I have examined Naruto's performance. Iruka walked in the training hall with Naruto as the Hokage waited with a pair of Anbu bodyguards. Iruka stepped up and bowed to the Hokage. Naruto did as well after a light tap by Iruka. "Thank you for allowing Naruto to demonstrate his skills for you, Hokage-sama," Iruka said. Sarutobi smiled as he knew this would be less of a demonstration as a long embarrassment for the boy, but it needed to be done. "Naruto, I know this will be a long frustrating ordeal for you, but it is needed to see what you know and where you have been taught incorrectly. First, run through the 5 standard katas of the Academy to Jutsu." Naruto looked lost for a moment before Iruka nudged him. Your daily exercise forms, Naruto. Naruto nodded and set himself into a stance but was immediately stopped by Sarutobi. What is that stance, Naruto? Naruto grinned. It's what Mizuki-sensei had me do every day. He said it was a special advanced form just for me, while everyone else did the basic stuff. Naruto noticed the scowl on the old leader's face and realized something. Naruto's grin faded as he mumbled, it's not, is it? Do you remember the basic moves, Naruto? Iruka asked. I think so, Iruka-sensei. Naruto then went through what he remembered, but he was awkward and off balance the whole time. Once the boy had finished, he stood quietly as Sarutobi looked on. The aged leader remained silent before nodding slowly. I have seen worse. Now for the 3 basic ninjutsu. Replacement, transformation and clone techniques. I am well aware of your skill with transformation so we can skip that one. Using the full hand seal sequence you were taught, replace yourself with a bucket of water on the other end of the hall. Naruto looked down. It doesn't work for me if I use the whole sequence I was taught. I was using one I saw the team, Sasuke use. Sarutobi waved Naruto closer, show me the hand seals you were taught without applying chakra, Naruto. Naruto stepped closer and slowly went through the seals. The Anbu, bear, broke his silence with a mild curse. Sarutobi looked at Bear confused. Did you recognize that sequence? Yes, Hokage-sama. If he used that sequence, he could make a replacement technique work if he used a small amount of chakra. However, it is actually the sequence for a suicide technique designed to bury the user into the ground if captured. Naruto paled when that was muttered, I am glad I copied off the team then. Sarutobi frowned again but continued, now for the clone technique, Naruto. Naruto groaned at hearing that but did as ordered. He made the seals and focused, but like in his genin test, he produced a single sickly-looking clone. Sarutobi rubbed his chin as Naruto looked downcast. Naruto, I want you to try again for me, but do something different. Use the same amount of chakra, but focus on making 50 clones, not just one. Iruka and the Anbu all looked at the Hokage with puzzled looks, but they turned back at Naruto to see the boy focus once more. When Naruto cast his, the air around the boy shimmered and 50 clones of Naruto appeared. Iruka looked poleaxed at the sight of so much orange. Sarutobi smirked and muttered, I thought as much. Sir? Iruka inquired. You told me you could see chakra around Naruto when he tried to make his clone technique work. That means he was badly overloading it. Anbu, activate my privacy barrier seals on the hall. This next test would be felt clear outside the village without them if I am not mistaken. The Anbu complied and the walls glowed with a dim blue glow. Naruto, this last test will be the most important of them all. You remember the exercises back in the first year of the academy where you practiced pulling out chakra? The boy nodded. Sarutobi continued, then I want you to generate as much chakra as you can using that method. Naruto looked scared for a moment but stepped back. He made a single hand sign and held it as he focused. The boy began to glow blue as chakra swirled around him which quickly grew into a blue-white sphere around him. Sarutobi was awestruck at the pure light surrounding the youth. Is that your maximum, Naruto? No. Last time I did this, Kara-sensei said I must be doing it wrong because no academy student should be able to do this. No, you are doing it correctly, Naruto. Focus and pull it all out. We need to know how much chakra you have. Pull until it starts to feel different. Naruto closed his eyes, concentrated harder and pulled. The orb around him glowed brighter still and doubled in size. The light was painful to look at and it continued for nearly a minute before dying down as Naruto tired himself out and fell to his knees. Sarutobi stepped up to the boy and smiled. That was very impressive, Naruto. Was that as much as you could make? Well, I kept going until I started to feel sick to my stomach. After that I just held it there. Iruka, why don't you go take Naruto for that ramen you were going to buy him last night? I need to take care of a few things before I can render my verdict. Sarutobi pulled out a number of bills and handed them to Iruka. It's on me this time. The teacher and boy walked out and Sarutobi turned to face the masked Anbu. The two cloaked forms removed the masks and cloaks to reveal a pair of Tenzo and Sarutobi Asuma. The boy has no practical skills whatsoever at this point, Asuma pointed out. His teacher, Mizuki, was trying to kill him and make it look like an accident. When he couldn't do that, he must have taught Naruto that flawed jutsu. Another genin could easily kill him in a deathmatch if he tried to fight with that. I agree, Tenzo said. His chakra level is monstrous in amount, but he has no control over it. Based on what he showed today, right now he stands in the top dozen in the history of Konoha in terms of pure chakra. It is scary to realize he is only a kid and nowhere near his potential. Sarutobi nodded. I hope you noticed he never tapped into the Kyuubi chakra at all. It was all his, one side effect of being its jailer. We cannot let him just go and be a civilian after this. Not with Danzo lurking out there waiting to try to claim him. The aged leader paused, but maybe that might be exactly what we wanted to happen. Asuma, remember back when you were a boy, all the trouble I had with weeds in our yard? The younger Sarutobi chuckled, yeah, it used to drive you crazy old man. They kept growing back no matter how many times you pulled them out. It took me getting a special herbicide to get rid of them. The weeds kept growing back because I could not get the whole root out. The herbicide ended up getting inside the weed and killing it all the way down to the roots. I am loath to use him like this, but in this case, Naruto will be our herbicide. With a little luck, he will get drawn into it and destroy the entire root for us. Chapter 3. Releasing the Stalking Horse. Naruto sat happily slurping down ramen noodles with Iruka looking on. The scarred teacher was amazed as always at how much ramen the boy could eat in one sitting. However, after seeing his performance at the Hokage's test earlier, he knew how the boy could manage it. His system burned through the calories and converted it to a massive amount of chakra. Apparently, being the container for the Kyuubi had a few unknown side effects on his body beyond the whiskers. He is going to have gone through the money Hokage-sama gave in another 2 bowls. I had better get him to slow down. Naruto, hold on a moment, Iruka spoke up to the blonde. Do not forget your manners in front of AM. I know I taught you better than that. Naruto paused and blushed heavily as he looked up sheepishly at the cook's daughter AM. The young woman smiled at Naruto and ruffled his hair. Don't worry too much, Naruto. I know you're not doing it to be rude. At least you never spill or make a mess on the counter. No way. Naruto exclaimed. That would be wasting ramen. Both Iruka and AM chuckled at the blonde boy's seriousness about his ramen. Naruto composed himself and ate at a more normal pace for 2 more bowls when Iruka spoke up again. It's time to head back to Hokage-sama's office and find out his decision, Naruto. Naruto paused before nodding and slowly stood up to leave. Iruka loudly cleared his throat. Naruto just looked at Iruka confused until Iruka cleared his throat again and nodded his head towards AM. Naruto looked confused for another moment before blushing and stuttering out a quiet thank you to AM. The woman smiled warmly and bid the pair goodbye as teacher and student headed off to meet with the Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen was suddenly feeling each of his 69 years as he looked at the earnest blonde bundle of energy before him. He knew his decision would break the boy's heart, but it needed to be done. Naruto, after seeing your performance and taking into account the recommendations of the Anbu I had observed, I cannot grant you genin rank at this time. Naruto just sat as the Hokage stated his decision, and the boy hung his head in despair. Iruka spoke up, but Hokage-sama, Naruto does try very hard and has immense potential that would make him a fine ninja one day. Sarutobi nodded, I agree that he has potential. But right now it is only that, potential. I will grant that some of his failures have come from deliberate attempts to sabotage his education. However, his lack of effort on his own part has also contributed to his poor performance. Skipping class to perform pranks does not constitute good effort, Naruto. Naruto tried to make himself seem even smaller in his chair. Taking everything into account, I will grant Naruto one more 6-month period in the remedial class at the academy. This is where those who fail to pass their sensei's test are sent. Failure there will result in permanent dismissal from the ninja program and being sent to the Daimyo Samurai Legion as a conscript. Do you understand, Naruto? Sarutobi glared down at Naruto with all the force of his office behind him. Naruto could only pale and nodded slowly. Sarutobi nodded crisply and muttered, you are dismissed. Iruka fought back a glare at his leader and ushered Naruto out of the office. Once the pair had closed the door behind them, Sarutobi slumped down and frowned. Naruto sat in his apartment that night and did nothing. He could not sleep and he had no appetite, even for ramen. His dreams were going down the drain and he would never be Hokage unless something changed. The light tapping on his window brought him out of his stupor. He pulled a kunai from under his pillow and quietly made his way over to peek out. He did not see anyone. Slowly, he turned to see the Hokage standing in his apartment. Anger boiled up in Naruto as the aged leader just stood in silence. What are you doing here? The boy yelled out. It's bad enough you are taking away my dreams, but now you have to come taunt me in my own apartment. No, Naruto. I am not here to taunt you. I am here because I need you to do something for me. Why should I do anything for you? Naruto hissed out with tears in his eyes. Sarutobi held out a folder. First, read this report. Naruto hesitated before taking the folder and reading the short report on a prank of his a few weeks earlier. The boy paled and looked shocked. I didn't do that kind of damage. Sarutobi nodded. I am aware of that. However, someone is trying to make it look like you did. I have a few ideas on them, but I must keep those secret for now. Are you willing to listen to me now as I explain a few things? Naruto nodded slowly and Sarutobi pointed to the bed. Both sat as the Hokage began his explanation. I know you wish to become Hokage one day, Naruto. Being Hokage is about a lot more than being respected or in charge. Sometimes it is making a tough decision on who will live and who will die. The boy gulped a bit as he had never considered that part of the job before. Being Hokage is also about lies and deception. What I did today was setting up something that will be very important for the future of this village and everyone in it. It involves you directly. There are people within the village who want to use you as a weapon. It involves the reason why so many people are unkind to you and ignore or mistreat you. I need to tell you about this reason before I ask you to do something for me. Do you remember your classes on sealing, Naruto? Sort of. Iruka-sensei used chakra to put stuff into a scroll to make it easier to carry. That is one use for sealing, and the very one I was hoping you would recall right now. After Iruka sealed the items into the scroll, did the scroll stop being a scroll? No, it was a scroll with a bunch of kunai in it. Good. Keep that in mind as I get to the next part. What happened the day you were born? The Kyuubi attacked and the fourth killed it. He died doing it. Sarutobi nodded, that is what we tell everyone, Naruto, but it is not entirely correct. The fourth did stop the Kyuubi, and he did die doing so, but even he could not kill A instead, he sacrificed his life to call upon the power of a death god to seal the Kyuubi inside of a newborn baby. Inside of you, Naruto. I have a demon inside of me. Naruto was on the edge of panicking. Naruto, calm down. Calm down. How can I calm down? Is it gonna eat me? It's going to eat my soul, isn't it? Sarutobi grumbled and slapped the hysterical boy. You hit me. Yes, I needed you to stop ranting. Now, are you a demon or are you a person that is keeping a demon trapped? Keeping it trapped, I guess, Naruto said quietly. That is correct. When you were a baby I passed a law making it a crime to tell anyone who did not already know about your condition. The only ones who are supposed to know are all adults now and they should not be telling anyone else, but they are anyway. That is why so many people go out of their way to ignore you or treat you poorly. I have tried to do what I can, but even a Hokage can only do so much. But why not? Why do they treat me badly like they do? Mostly because of fear, Naruto. A single person can be smart and fearless, but get a group of people in one place and they become stupid and cowardly. Like AM at the ramen stand. She knows about your secret, but does she treat you badly? No, she is really nice to me. She sees who you are, Naruto, not something to be afraid of, just a sad lonely boy who wants to have some ramen. But in the crowd, they only see the demon, not the boy who keeps it captive. They don't see that you protect us all from and are afraid of it. I protect people from it. Yes, Naruto. Your entire life you have served the village by being its protector from the demon you keep trapped within you. But, why did you threaten to send me away from here into the daimyo samurai legions? I was getting to that, Naruto. I have a problem and I need your help to solve it. I do not want to just use you without you knowing about it, but I needed to make a point in public that people will know and talk about, and I did not have time to ask you first. This is one of the difficult decisions a Hokage has to make that I mentioned earlier, Naruto. There are people who do not have the best interests of Konoha in their hearts. They just want power for themselves. They know you are special to me and that I have watched over you for years. I needed to make it look like I was angry with you and was pushing you away. This way they will creep out from their hidden places and approach you. They will make offers to you and try to use you to get more power for themselves. These same people wrote the lies in the report I showed you earlier. So I should tell you right away if they come to me? No, Naruto. I want you to pretend to go along with what they want you to do. Their leader is the one I am after, not the little minions. Once they think they have you in their clutches they will take you to him. That is when I will get him and take out the whole root of this problem at once. It sounds important. What if I can't do it? I think you can, Naruto. But I leave the choice to you. You have options. You can reject my mission and go through the remedial class and try to pass in 6 months. Iruka will be checking on your progress weekly to ensure you are being taught correctly. That alone should give you the skills you need to pass with no problem. If you accept my mission now, you would become an official ninja of Konoha, but no one will know about it except me until after your mission is complete. Naruto was about to shout his acceptance when Sarutobi stopped him. Before you accept, I have to tell you. Failing in this mission will likely result in your death, Naruto. I want you to spend a day thinking about things, and I will return tomorrow night to hear your answer. Naruto nodded and Sarutobi disappeared in a burst of chakra smoke. Naruto spent the following day walking around Konoha. With his new knowledge about what he contained, he thought about the way most people treated him. There was a large difference in how he was treated between ninja and civilians. Active ninja would just ignore him like they would any other 12-year-old academy student, neither good nor bad. The extreme hatred that Mizuki had shown him was not the norm but the exception. Retired ninja were generally neutral to him unless he had pulled a prank on them. Civilians tended to shoo him off and pull their children away from him. Older merchants were more hostile than most, but he also added in the fact that a large number of them had been pranked after he had been treated poorly. Kids his own age and younger varied from wary to neutral, with a few openly nice to him. His wanderings took him to the academy and he watched from the swing as the students who passed were leaving with Kiba, Shino and Hinata left with a pretty red-eyed lady. Choji, Shikamaru and Ino left with a bearded man who looked somewhat familiar to Naruto, but he didn't know why. Eventually, Iruka left for the day, but he spied Sakura-chan, Sasuke team and one other boy still waiting in the room. A couple of hours later, Naruto got bored and wandered off in his thoughts once more as the three still sat waiting in the classroom. His wandering eventually found him in front of Ichiraku Ramen. The blonde boy still did not have much of an appetite. But he sat down and ordered a single bowl of ramen because he knew he needed to eat anyhow. AM looked over at him concerned, "What is wrong with Naruto? You barely ate anything last night and just want tonight. Are you sick?" Naruto gave her a weak smile, "No. I just found out a few things about myself yesterday. About why people treat me like they do." AM looked sad for a moment before smiling at the boy. "Me and Dad have always thought you were a hero, Naruto. Everyone who takes the time to get to know you knows how good a person you are." She winked at him. "If you were a few years older, I'd just keep you for myself." Naruto was confused by her flirting and just ate his ramen in silence after that. Naruto was sitting waiting when Sarutobi appeared in his apartment later that night. "Well Naruto, what is your decision?" "Well, I am scared, but I'll do it, old man," Naruto said with a hesitant smile. Sarutobi nodded, "Then I can tell you what you need to do. Tomorrow, you will try to see me in my office to try to convince me to change my mind about making you a genin. I will have you thrown out after a loud shouting match with one of my Anbu. He will say some hurtful things to Naruto, but this will all be covered for what you must do later on." "Hurtful?" Sarutobi nodded once more. "He will call you several cruel names in front of several secretaries whose allegiance I am not certain of and have you removed from the tower without seeing me. Please know that I do not think that way at all. After that, you must not try to see me in the tower. I will come here once a week for any information you might have learned. Once you have been thrown out, you act bitter towards me and, if you choose to do so, make unfavorable statements about me. This will draw the people I wish to capture to you. I will assume it will be for some kind of special secret training. Go along with them and earn their trust. In time they will take you to see their leader. I believe him to be the man named Danzo." "The limping bandaged guy?" Naruto asked. "You are an observant one, Naruto. Well, he is always looking at me whenever I see him. I figured he was some kind of pervert child molester, so I would stay away from him when he wanted to talk to me." Sarutobi chuckled but continued, "If something comes up where you need to see me at once, you are to go to Ichiraku Ramen. Once there you will order the special Hokage only ramen and get it to go. She will say it is for the Hokage only, but you tell her you are going to be the Hokage one day and you are entitled to it." "So, how do I get started on this mission, old man?" Naruto asked excitedly. "Oh, that part is simple. You go to the remedial classes as scheduled then wait for them to get in touch with you." Chapter 4. Dangling the bait. Naruto was at the tower early in the morning. He figured that in order to get the most out of what he needed to do he should do it in front of the most people possible. He sat calmly on a bench outside the Hokage's tower. He watched people going into the building for their normal civilian day of work. At last, he saw Sarutobi walk past him without even glancing at him. "Hey old man." Naruto called out in his loud but friendly way. "I need to talk to you." Unlike all the previous times Naruto had called out to him, Sarutobi continued on without turning and entered the building. His Anbu bodyguards had barely glanced at Naruto. Steeling himself, Naruto ran into the building after the group. "Hey, wait a second." He cried out as he trailed the Hokage up through the building. "Please, Jiji, I really need to talk to you about this." He made himself sound desperate as they passed many lower level offices. Heads peeked around desks as the boys' shouts drew more and more attention. Naruto finally got to the office door and tried to enter like he normally did when he came to the tower. His hand was stopped by one of the Anbu guards taking hold of his wrist. "Hokage-sama will not see your child. He has no more time for the antics of a failure," the bear-masked guard said in an even tone. "I am not a failure," Naruto yelled out. "I am going to be Hokage one day. You'll see." He pulled his hand free and reached for the door handle once more. Naruto suddenly found his face slammed into the wall with his arm wrenched behind his back in a hammerlock. "Ow," he whimpered. The Anbu took hold of his jacket collar and, holding tightly to the arm he held, the frog marched Naruto back down and out of the building. Naruto protested loudly the whole time. Once outside, the Anbu hurled Naruto to the ground and spoke in the calm, even tone Anbu are normally heard in. "Uzumaki-san, you are barred from returning to this tower without being summoned from the Hokage or one of the officials within who require your presence." If you return without being summoned, the Hokage will allow the charges he is holding back for the defacing of the monument to proceed, and you will be arrested and placed in prison for treason. Do you understand what I have said to you? Naruto sat in the dirt and slowly nodded. I require a verbal answer from you, Uzumaki-san. Do you understand what I have said to you? Naruto replied in a soft voice, yes, I understand. The Anbu nodded before turning and going back into the building. Naruto sat in the dirt for a few minutes before rising. Tears fell down his face as he slowly walked away from the tower. Sarutobi looked out his window at the blonde boy walking off. Even knowing this was a setup, he felt bad for having to subject the boy he loved like his own grandson to such treatment. There was a knock on his door and Bear entered the office. Sarutobi looked over to see Asuma remove the bear mask and looked at him for a moment. Asuma had been about to express his dislike of having to do that to Naruto, but the look of pain in his father's eyes told him that silence was the best option. It's done. As ordered, was all he said. Sarutobi nodded. Now we wait. The hardest part about fishing is seeing what nibbles on the bait you toss out and how long it will take. And hoping they do not notice the little hook waiting for them when they do. Rumors spread like wildfire across Konoha. The third of Naruto tossed out of the tower. Many people thought that finally the demon container was losing favor with their aged leader. One foolhardy soul decided that he could act on his dislike of the boy. Naruto had been walking with his head down and hands in his pockets when the bottle came flying out of the alley. It suddenly swerved in midair and flew up to a rooftop to be caught by an Anbu. Naruto never even noticed it. The man turned to flee, but he ran into a single Anbu waiting behind him. The boy may have fallen out of favor, idiot, but the third's law still remains. The Anbu vanished with the civilians in a swirl of leaves. Several days after the incident at the tower, Naruto arrived for the remedial classes. He was surprised that 13 of the 20 other students there had actually passed the Genin test. But why are they here if they passed? He wondered. The biggest surprise he found was that Sakura was in the group. She got assigned to a team with Sasuke and some kid that was from an outskirt village. I don't see team or that other kid, so why is she here? He noticed that Sakura had her head hung in defeat much like he had when he failed the tests. Even her normally vibrant pink hair had a dirty look to it, showing it had not been washed in days. He walked up to her. In a quiet voice he asked, Sakura-chan, what are you doing here? Sakura looked up at him. Her bright green eyes lacked any life at all. Oh, hi Naruto. Guess I'm where I belong, with the losers. What happened? You passed the test. So did a bunch of other people here. I don't understand. Sakura sighed, it seems there is a second test by the teachers. If they fail you, you get washed back. My team failed. But if you failed, then where is the team? He said, puzzled by her answer. Kakashi-sen's. Kakashi-san said his skills were good enough that he could be used as a replacement in an existing team. Mine weren't, she said with no energy. Naruto was shocked by her answer. Add in the fact that he had insulted Sasuke and Sakura had not even reacted and he was really worried. He sat next to her and she still did not react to him. Sakura, I'm sitting next to you, you know. I'm not even defending myself, so if you felt like it, you could hit me on the head for it. Sakura just lowered her head once more. No thanks Naruto. Naruto tried to think of something else to cheer up Sakura. You know, it could be worse. They could have kicked you out altogether. If they sent you here they might think you are still good enough but just lacking something. Like with me, I can't make a simple clone. If you fix that one area, you could be a ninja after all. Sakura looked up again, do you really think so? But what if I fail again and then they get rid of me? Then go out trying your best. I read something once, but I can't remember what it said, so I'll tell you what I remember of it. I will fight until I have nothing left. If my weapon breaks, I'll fight with my hands. If my hands are cut off, I'll kick them with my feet. If my feet get cut off, I'll crawl along the ground and bite them. If they kill me, I will still win by getting my blood on them and ruining their clothes. Sakura chuckled at the corny last line Naruto said as his grin seemed to lighten the mood she was in. That was horrible and I never heard of anything like that, Naruto. But I think that was something like a samurai's motto. Maybe, but it did make you smile, Sakura-chan. You look much nicer when you smile, he said with honesty. Sakura smiled weakly at Naruto after that. Thanks Naruto. They sat in silence until an instructor neither knew them came in. The man wore the standard uniform of Konoha. He looked over at the students in the room with a blank look before speaking in a loud clear voice. All of you are here for one reason or another. The underlying reason is that all of you here have washed out of the academy training program. None of you are any longer on the fast track for advancement and few if any of you are likely to be making rank. You are plain grunts from now on. I am the only person you need to impress while I see if I can salvage any of you into passable ninja. I will not tolerate backtalker slackers in my class. After today, all of you will come to class in suitable attire and respond to military discipline. You will address me as sir. That is the only way you will refer to me. Do you understand my class? A few students replied with a weak, yes sir. I could not hear you. Do you understand my class? The class replied louder, yes sir. In the future all replies will be loud and clearly spoken. You will wear dark blue, dark green or black clothing to class. Brightly colored hair will be covered when on duty or dyed to a dark color. It will not be loose below your neck. He glared at Sakura and Naruto specifically on those points. When I call on you in class, you will rise and stand straight before replying to me. Are there any questions for me? Naruto raised his hand slightly above his head. The instructor pointed at him with the whiskers. Naruto stood up and rubbed the back of his head with one hand. Sir, I have no other clothes that could be used for ninja work. I don't have enough money to buy better clothes. The instructor raised an eyebrow, whiskers, did I say you could smile or rub the back of your head when you addressed me? No sir. The instructor got up close to Naruto and glared at the boy from a few inches away. Then get down on the floor and do 20 push-ups for your mistake. Naruto dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups. He quickly did the 20 required and stood once more. We have a comedian, class. How many push-ups did you do for me, whiskers? I was 20, sir, Naruto replied in a clear voice. Really? I never heard you say you did any. And how do I know you actually did 20? Maybe you only did 19 and are lying to me. Are you lying to me, whiskers? No sir. Then I want to hear you as you do those push-ups, whiskers. The instructor bellowed. Naruto got back down to the floor and began doing push-ups once more, making sure he counted off each one as his body rose and fell. He finished the final one and began to rise when a foot pushed his chest back to the ground. Are you trying to get thrown out of this program, whiskers? No sir. I think you are. You seem to think you are special or something. You did every one of those push-ups wrong. He looked at Sakura. Pinky, what did whiskers do wrong? Sakura quickly stood, he forgot to say sir each time he spoke out sir. The man nodded and looked back down, do my 20 push-ups, whiskers. Naruto felt the foot leave his back and he performed another 20 push-ups counting each one and making sure he said sir at each. Once finished, Naruto stood back up. The instructor looked at him, to answer your question. You may go request suitable clothing from the quartermaster. The cost of it will be deducted if you make genin, otherwise you will be billed for it if you wash out entirely. He handed Naruto a paper. Give them this. Take Pinky with you because both of you are wearing clothes that say kill me. The instructor then talked about the class schedule and that each day they would be doing exercise as a group to make sure that they all could handle the physical side of being ninja. After that, he dismissed the class until the following day and walked out. The instructor walked to a plain building and entered. He descended down a hidden stairwell to come to an open area. He went to one knee before an old bandaged man supported himself with a cane. Anzo-sama, the newest class does contain the container as we had been informed. The group also contains 3 or 4 other potential recruits. With the proper mindset they could do well for Root. Anzo smiled crookedly. Keep an eye on the ones you think might be useful eventually. Make sure they all receive strict discipline. Do not approach the container just yet. Have him watched when he is not in training. I want to see if he truly has fallen out of favor with the Hokage before we approach him. He needs the most discipline of them all. Let the system do our initial training for us. Naruto and Sakura eventually found the quartermaster warehouse far from the civilian areas they normally kept to. Upon showing the note from their instructor, each of them received 4 sets of clothing in a dark blue. Neither one was interested in dyeing their hair, so they got several head scarves to tuck under their headbands to cover their hair. Sakura would be forced to wear hers in the standard fashion to hide her bangs and tie her hair up in a bun to keep its length. Once the paperwork for the clothing was filled out, they were allowed to leave. The quartermaster had also issued them each a pack to carry the clothing in. They slowly made their way back toward the civilian areas. Sakura-chan, do you want to get some ramen with me? I'll pay. I have a little bit of money left. Sakura was quiet for a minute. Naruto had always asked her out in the past and she would normally hit him for it so she would not look like she was giving up on Sasuke. But now, she was in a totally different situation. She had no Sasuke to fall back on. She had no other person she knew remotely as much as Naruto in the class. Every person she knew more than casually had passed a real test and now she had no one, just Naruto. She didn't want to push away the closest thing she had left to calling a friend. Fine, she said at last in the defeated voice she had been using outside of class. It is not a date. Just a pair of friends getting something to eat. Naruto smiled broadly and it seemed to be warm and lightened her mood just a little bit. Day by day, the next 3 months passed slowly for both Naruto and Sakura. The instructor seemed to take particular glee in torturing the pair of them. Neither one noticed they were being molded into obedient little soldiers, as every instance of individuality was dealt with by harsh physical punishment in the form of more exercise. Classes consisted of tactics and team formations, and all the physical things a ninja needed to know. Taijutsu was done daily and left all the students sore. Knife work, weapon throwing, silent killing techniques, offensive and defensive formations. There were none of the leadership classes that the academy had drilled into them. They realized that they were no longer the leaders. They would end up being the followers, a part of the nameless background, all dressed and looking the same. Sakura's physical strength improved dramatically. She decided early on to take heed of Naruto's advice. They could kick her out, but she would not give them the satisfaction of making her quit. Her slender arms gained muscle mass along with the rest of her body. In response to her increasing physical energy, her chakra reserves were several times what they had been in the original academy. Her build became more like a gymnast than anything else, as the flexibility exercises the class had kept her from growing muscle-bound and looking like a weightlifter. In the second month after a grueling day of running an obstacle course, Sakura's bun had come undone and her long hair cascaded down her back. The instructor was immediately yelling at her to do something about it. Wincing under his verbal assault, she pulled out a kunai and sliced a hair off at her neck. She just dropped the pink strands into the mud and kept moving. She never looked back at it. Naruto also filled out from a scrawny boy into a much more fit person. His troubles with chakra control only increased the amount of punishment he got at the hands of the instructor. But he kept one thought in mind. He was working for the Hokage, and this was a mission. The only bright spot for Naruto or Sakura was each other. As they were the troublemakers of the group, the other students left them isolated. During training they would watch each other's backs and make sure the other was getting through that stage of the training. They would sit together during lunches and walk back to their homes at night together. Every few days Naruto would treat Sakura to ramen, but he ate much less than he had in the past, as his funds had been drastically cut. Neither one spoke much outside of training, and they only caught glimpses of their old friends as they passed by doing other things. They did see that their former friends never bothered to notice the pair of trainees in identical outfits and head coverings. True to his word, the Hokage came by his apartment once a week late at night. Early on, Naruto would give long detailed talks about his experiences, but every week these became smaller. After nearly 3 months he just said in an exhausted voice, "Nothing to report, Hokage-sama." Sarutobi frowned at hearing that as the entirety of what Naruto had to say. But he could see the changes in the boy over time. He hoped that the bubbly boy he knew was not lost forever. The Hokage then left Naruto's apartment in a puff of smoke. Back in his mansion, Sarutobi shivered as the shadow clone dissipated and the memories flowed into his mind. He needed to push things along faster. Rude must be holding back to have not approached Naruto yet. He needed to make things move faster. He was worried about many things, and the disturbing report of a genin team headed for the Wave Country being killed along with their teacher and client seemed more ominous than usual. The instructor looked over his reduced class. From the original 21 students, 13 remained. The rest had left the program on their own. The first 3 months of this program are now over. I hope I have instilled the proper amount of physical and mental discipline into all of you that will be needed in your time as a ninja of Konoha. I will turn you over to a new instructor tomorrow to handle your chakra and training. There was a call from the door, stand for the Hokage. All the students stood quickly to attention. The Hokage walked briskly with his white robes and official hat. He looked out at the teenagers and frowned before turning to the instructor. These are the washouts of the last academy session. Yes, Hokage-sama. They just finished their physical retraining and move on to the chakra and retraining tomorrow. The Hokage nodded. Any problems from any of them? Only Uzumaki and Haruno, Hokage-sama. They seem to not like to follow the rules, but we are certain they will fall into line. Their years in the academy left them thinking they were special. Sarutobi walked over to the still at attention Naruto. Still causing problems for Naruto. You must really want to spend the next 20 years of your life in the daimyo's legions, don't you? No, Hokage-sama, Naruto replied. Sarutobi looked at the instructor, make a note in Uzumaki's file. If he fails out or quits, he goes to the legions as a conscript. Haruno as well. The ranks do not need troublemakers. Yes, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi turned and left without another word. Both Naruto and Sakura looked scared as the instructor turned a malicious grin in their direction. Anzo-sama, we have an update on the container. Sarutobi has threatened to send him to the legions as a conscript. Excellent. Desperate men turn to whoever gives them comfort. Watch his home for another 2 months. If no one sees him by then, send in a low-level operative to approach him with an offer. Anzo turned his attention to other things as he could see his new weapon getting deeper into his grasp. Chapter 5. An offer he can't refuse. Anzo-sama, we have an update on the container. Sarutobi has threatened to send him to the legions as a conscript. Excellent. Desperate men turn to whoever gives them comfort. Watch his home for another 2 months. If no one sees him by then, send in a low-level operative to approach him with an offer. Danzo turned his attention to other things as he could see his new weapon getting deeper into his grasp. Sarutobi normally liked going out and seeing the training of the various ninja under his command. This morning he felt too sick to do so. His need to force Danzo's hand was becoming too great. He had been forced to threaten not only Naruto, but a person who had no connection to his plans. He remembered the perky pink-haired girl from Naruto's class and knew she should not be in that program. Kakashi had failed the team over poor ability and the lack of any sort of teamwork. He even suggested that the Uchiha be turned over for psychological tests due to his monomaniacal need to kill his brother. It had been the manipulations of Sarutobi's old teammates that had the Uchiha boy assigned out as a replacement for an incomplete team. Like it or not, his power as Hokage was waning as his age increased. Danzo would not outlive him by very long as the old Warhawk was badly crippled. The rude organization Danzo created would outlive both of them and be a drain on Konoha unless it was destroyed. Naruto was the big variable for Sarutobi. The boy needed so much more than he had gotten in his life. If someone were to offer him better than he had received in the past, the Hokage felt there was a slim chance that the boy would turn. He needed someone else as a backup to Naruto, just in case the boy did turn to what he was offered. Naruto liked the instructor for chakra training a lot better than the one for physical training. Sakura was helping him with classwork as much as he had helped her with physical exercise. The pair had become a team in practice but not in fact. In spite of getting the most punishment and being excluded by the others, they were also the top two in the class. The discipline he had been subject to for the past 3 months taught him to concentrate and focus on what he needed to do. That helped him refine his chakra control, now that real training on it began. The class had been asked to do the most basic chakra measurement exercise for the teacher. Sakura was surprised to see that her reserves had increased several times over what they had been in the academy. Her control remained as perfect as before and might even have improved somewhat through the discipline. When finished she kept her face composed and bowed. "Cha. I pulled it off." She shouted inside. When it was Naruto's turn, he looked straight at the instructor and said, "Sir, do you want my best or what do you need to see?" The instructor just sneered and said, "Your best is what I want to see." "Yes, sir," was all Naruto said before he exploded in light. The entire group felt like they had looked into the sun. Naruto glowed like that for 10 seconds before the instructor was shouting at him to stop. It took several minutes for the instructor and the class to regain their sight. Naruto managed to hide his smirk before the instructor could see it. "Never do that again, Uzumaki. I will admit you have more chakra than anyone your age should have, but that is not a reason to flaunt it. You need to control all that power." "Yes sir," Naruto replied. The instructor led the class outside. "Alright, class. Now we will start your chakra control exercises. All of you have shown enough chakra to do this, so I want no slackers. Today I will show all of you how to climb walls and trees without your hands. You will use chakra through the soles of your feet to grip the tree. This technique is the basis for the tree and roof running you see so many ninjas of Konoha use." The instructor walked up to the wall of the training area and with a slight push-off walked up the wall. He stopped about 20 feet up and looked down at the class. The most difficult part of this exercise is getting used to the way your perception shifts when in a plane that is not vertical. It is easy to become disoriented because gravity still works on you even though your feet are gripping the surface. That is why this is used mainly as a practice exercise and not a routine procedure. First step, lift one foot and place it flat on the wall. Mold chakra through that foot to get it to grip at the wall. Once you can lean back at a steep angle and have your foot remain gripping the wall, you get my attention and then you can switch to work on the other foot. Sometimes it takes a different amount on each foot to get this to work. You may approach the wall and begin. The class stepped up to begin. Sakura and the other girl in the class both managed to get one foot to work almost immediately. They raised their arms and were able to switch feet. Naruto was constantly applying chakra and having his foot pushing off from the wall. The jutsu instructor came up to each person in turn and told them what they were doing wrong. Each time he was telling the person to apply more chakra. He observed Naruto and growled out, "Way too much chakra, Uzumaki." Naruto applied less and less as his instructor told him until finally he managed to get the foot to remain attached to the wall. He was the last one to be switching feet, but he managed to get the second foot on the first try. The instructor was pleased that the entire class had managed the first step in only an hour. The next part would be a step up in difficulty. He led the class to a slanted section of wall at a steep angle with bars hanging over it. Second step. I want each of you to grab the bar on the wall in front of you. You will lift yourself off the ground and place your feet against the wall. You will use your chakra to hold your feet in place and slowly relax your arms until your weight is on your feet. You will need to increase the chakra you use to do this as more weight is on your feet. Once you can maintain the grip with your feet, you will release the bar and keep yourself firmly attached to the surface. Once everyone has accomplished this, we will move on. Once more the class began the new exercise. Sakura and the other girl were once again the first two to get it right, but Naruto was a close third behind them. The instructor walked up to Naruto and looked at him and finally pulled at him to see how well he was stuck to the slanted surface. How is it you could not get one foot to stick for so long, but now can learn this part so fast, Uzumaki? I learned best by doing, sir. Once I knew how much to use chakra, it was easy after that. Adding a little more was easy for me too, Naruto informed him. The instructor chuckled as he turned to get the rest of the class up to speed. Several fell, but the controlled conditions prevented injuries. Once everyone had managed the exercise, the instructor moved on to the third one. Third step. This is the toughest part. Now each of you will actually climb a wall. You will be allowed to step on the slanted part on the way up. From a standing start, you will place one foot on the slanted surface and lift yourself up, then place the other foot higher on the wall and then proceed to walk up the wall. You will not run during this exercise. It is intended to train your control, not your speed. Moving at a slower speed means you need greater control to get up the distance required. If you find your leg strength lacking, use chakra to support the muscles. I expect us to be working on this for at least the next 2 days, so those who finish early can keep doing it by going up backwards. Those who cannot do this exercise forwards and backwards after 2 days had better practice on their own time or you will fail the final. Do you understand? We understand, sir, shouted out the class. The instructor leaned against the wall to watch the class practice and fall often, but there were no serious injuries. Over the next 2 days, the class all managed to finish the exercise. Sakura had nearly exhausted her chakra even at the higher level of control. Naruto carried her piggyback toward her house as she lightly dozed. He caught sight of Team 10 going the other way, but chose to say nothing as the group walked past. Shikamaru had only been grazed by Sakura's foot. He looked up for a moment, but then stopped and looked over his shoulder. Naruto? Sakura? Naruto flinched and stopped, almost coming to attention upon hearing his name. Sakura shifted on his back and groggily lifted her head off his shoulder, muttering, "Here, sir." Toji, Ino and Asuma all stopped once Shikamaru had and turned back to see what was wrong. The remainder of Team 10 saw Shikamaru talking to a pair of ordinary military ninjas, with one being carried on the second's back. Asuma shifted to one side, recognized Naruto's face and frowned. The look on Naruto's face was extremely tired and his features holding a blank mask. The girl on his back was even more tired and looked like she had just woken up. But the thing that most disturbed him was their eyes. They were not so empty as they seemed guarded and hiding their emotions. He would need to talk to his father about this. Shikamaru looked over the pair with a critical eye as he took in their appearance and physical state. He needed more time to think about this. We haven't seen either of you since graduation. We were just going to get some barbecue. You want to come? Asuma frowned at first, but Shikamaru glanced back at him with a look and he spoke up. That's an excellent idea, Shikamaru. He waved Team 10 into motion and Naruto followed along, still carrying Sakura. Asuma got them all into the restaurant and had Naruto and Sakura in furthest against the wall. Ino slid in next to Sakura and Choji outside of Ino. Shikamaru got in next to Naruto with Asuma taking the outside seat. Sakura and Naruto both sat there as Team 10 ordered food for the entire group. Ino began to talk and ask them questions. Asuma noticed neither one made a move to remove their hoods, so he spoke up, you can take off the hoods now. Naruto spoke up, we are still on duty until we arrive at home, sir. We are supposed to be in uniform on duty. Asuma nodded, well, I am and I say you are off duty while you are here eating, so take them off. Both Naruto and Sakura pulled the hoods off their heads and Ino almost freaked out when she saw the state of Sakura's hair. Damn, forehead, what did you do to your hair? It's almost as short as Hinata's now. It was in the way and I didn't have time to roll it back up into a bun, so I had to cut it or do 50 push-ups for being out of uniform, Sakura replied in a tired voice. It was below my neck. Ino looked over at Asuma in shock as he nodded. But my ponytail goes almost all the way down my back. And I don't have to wear that hideous uniform. Why do they have to? She asked her teacher. Asuma sighed and slid into lecture mode. They both washed back from the elite program into the standard military ninja program. The elite program that you are in, Ino, is what most of the world sees of our ninja. The elite program gets the high-profile missions that make a village famous and get the village a lot of money from clients who wish for the ninja they hire to be seen. The elites also tend to be the more powerful ninja of a hidden village and get unique reputations. Genin in the elite program don't have to wear standard uniforms so they can be seen in public much easier. Most and in the elite program tend to move to a more military style of dress so they do not stand out as much to the enemy. Standard military ninja are a different group. They wear uniforms all the time. They get the quiet missions and the dirty missions. They take guard duty in Konoha. They keep the village secure and handle all the things that we take for granted with our elite status. They also rarely get high-profile missions and few advance to rank. However, a large portion of Anbu is drawn from the best of them. When someone fails out of the academy due to lack of skill or failed by a sensei, they get sent to the military ninja basic training to see if they can still be useful as a ninja. But Sakura was smarter than I was, Asuma-sensei, Ino protested. She should still be one of us. No Ino, Sakura said quietly. Yes, I was smart, but I was also being very stupid. I spent all the time I could have been getting physically stronger chasing after Sasuke. Now I know better but I am not going to quit. I can't quit now. I have to get through this to the end. Why not? Ino blubbered out. You can always quit the program if you are not a genin yet. Naruto looked across the table at Ino. If either of us tries to quit or fail out now, Hokage-sama is going to send us to be conscripts in the daimyo's legions. What are the daimyo's legions? Choji asked. Asuma spoke up, they are the military forces that answer directly to the daimyo as opposed to the Hokage. Normal professional soldiers who have no chakra are people who wanted to fight but not be ninja. Local militias, police forces and conscripts are also a part of the legions. Conscripts are basically slave labor in the legions. Few conscripts survive their terms of conscription. If Naruto and Sakura are sent there, it would be a horrible and short life. Ino paled, what would happen? Asuma looked down, and Naruto would be the lucky one. He would likely survive. He would be little better than a pack mule, and he wouldn't get to fight, only do drudge labor. Sakura, Asuma paused and looked up at Sakura. He saw a slight spark in her eyes, and she nodded slightly. She knew what could happen to her there. Asuma continued, Sakura would be used by the troops. As a pleasure woman and a cook. Likely she would not live very long. Toji and Ino both had tears rolling down their faces upon hearing that. That's cruel and inhuman. Ino cried out. Asuma nodded once more. Sending someone to the legions is a last resort for Konoha. It is reserved for the worst and most incompetent of trainees. Hokage-sama normally just dismisses people from the military instead of doing that. The team sat in silence for a few moments before Shikamaru spoke up. I doubt that would happen to them, Ino. Unless the standards are ridiculously high, they should already be more than strong enough to pass now. Judging by how their uniforms fit and in spite of their being tired, I think the pair of them could defeat all three of us right now in a straight battle. Toji looked at Naruto and Sakura then back at Shikamaru, are you sure, Shika? They look pretty wiped out. Shikamaru nodded, you both were so busy listening to Asuma-sensei that you haven't watched them. They have been quietly eating almost constantly since the food was brought up. I would guess that Sakura's chakra reserves are back up to a quarter of their normal level from being nearly empty less than an hour ago. Physically, they are each stronger than me and Ino, and they would not fool around flashy. They would move in to disable immediately with kunai and taijutsu. They are not mere ninja anymore, Choji. They are soldiers as well. I think Naruto as he is now would easily defeat Sasuke. Ino chuckled, as if Sasuke-kun would roast him in a few seconds. Shikamaru shook his head, no, Naruto would beat him in a few seconds. Not with anything flashy, just go right about it and cut him down without a word while Sasuke was trying to brag about his superiority. Naruto smiled slightly, I might have let him think he had a chance, Shikamaru. But I think that is about right. Asuma spoke up once more, Ino, I mentioned that most of Anbu comes from the military ninja. What I did not tell you is more specific. Nearly all Anbu come from academy students that were washed back to the military side from the elite side. Think about it. They had the skills and ability to make it through the entire academy program, but lacked the one thing a sensei felt was off to be a part of the elite. The military training and discipline added to that existing skill level and made them better than just the academy or just the military. I would not be surprised if in 5 years or so, both Naruto and Sakura would be invited to join Anbu. Toji was in so much shock hearing what Asuma had to say he never even noticed Naruto quietly getting the last piece of meat. Since the class had demonstrated ability at wall climbing, the chakra instructor wasted no time moving on to walking on water as the next skill. This took nearly a week for the entire class to master. Sakura managed to accomplish it the first day along with a few others, so they were tasked with variants of it like doing handstands or calisthenics on the surface of the water. The chakra instructor wasted little time with fancy high power. Each day he would have his students hold themselves to the rafters of the room while he taught his lessons. He taught simple D class in the class. Using simple water to fill a canteen by condensing the water from the air. Fire that could be held in one hand and used to cook meals without the need of a campfire. Earth that could allow hiding of trash and waste at a campsite. Wind to dry clothes if they get wet. The range of simple uses of the class learned made more sense for a covert force than the flash the elite ninja used. By the time that chakra and training was completed, the class would become true ninja, silent, unseen and skilled. Anzo-sama, the latest report from the instructor, has been forwarded to us. There are several promising candidates we can have assigned to root members. Subject Uzumaki is showing great progress as far as self-control now. The agents watching him have not detected any contact with him in private outside of a dinner with some of their old academy classmates last month after Uzumaki and Haruno bumped into them. The agents are worried because the sensei of that team is Sarutobi Asuma. Have there been any attempts to contact Uzumaki in his residence? Our agents have reported none in all the time he has been in the program. They have to be careful to avoid the normal Anbu watch on the boy, but they are able to maintain surveillance. The dinner was the only contact with his former friends in months. Only subject Haruno has close ties to him now. She is on the consideration list. Anzo nodded. Send a message to keep Uzumaki alone after training tomorrow. Someone will have a talk with him then. Uzumaki, one of the instructors wishes to discuss your failings as a ninja with you after today's training session, the chakra instructor told Naruto. Haruno, there will be no need to remain waiting for Uzumaki today unless you have a pressing need for more push-ups. Naruto and Sakura both replied, yes sir. Naruto watched Sakura trudge off as he sat to wait. Maybe this is the contact that the old man has been hoping for, he thought. Naruto heard a person open the door saying, Uzumaki, come with me. Naruto rose and followed the man he recognized as the first instructor who called him Whiskers all the time. He had never learned the man's name. The instructor led Naruto to an office and had Naruto sit in a chair facing away from the door. Wait here, Uzumaki. Don't turn around. A door across the hall was knocked on and it opened. Footsteps crossed the hallway and the office door closed. Naruto could hear two people behind him. Uzumaki, we have a problem to deal with. It seems you are up to the task for us. Right now you are on the cusp of failing out of our little program along with your little friend. Your discipline problems have all been documented and will count against you when the final scores are added up. If you decide to help us with this little problem, those records will disappear. What if I choose not to help, sir? Naruto asked. Then we will have no choice but to apply those records in full force, making both you and your little friend, Sakura, fail. You know what failure would bring for each of you? Yes, we know you still call her Sakura-chan when you are alone. Imagine poor little Sakura-chan being sent out as a conscript. Her first night being auctioned off to the highest bidder as a prostitute. That man took her in various disgusting ways before tossing her to the rest of the men. Naruto's fist clenched involuntarily as the man so casually talked for a few more minutes about the treatment that would await Sakura. Finally, he asked, what would I need to do? Naruto slowly walked back toward his apartment. He did not know what he should do. If he rejected the mission, Sakura-chan would be sent out as a conscript. Visions of Sakura-chan being cruelly treated and raped danced in front of his eyes. The thought of it just made his chest hurt. She was a much nicer person to him now. She never yelled or hit him anymore. They even talked about small things together. She even smiled at him when no one else was around. He could not condemn Sakura-chan to that life, so he would sacrifice his own to keep her safe. He would do what the people wanted of him to ensure that she would be alright. He walked up to Ichiraku and ordered a Hokage-sized ramen. He knew that the old man had put that over her and only the old man could take it off now. He hoped that the message would get through in time and then he could go do what the mysterious people wanted of him. Chapter 6. Dancing Within Shadows. Naruto waited nervously for the old man to show up at his apartment. He needed to leave on the mission within the hour if he was going to get it done. There was a puff of chakra smoke and he saw the aged Hokage in his living room. I assume since you used the emergency contact that something has come up? Sarutobi asked. Yes, sir, Naruto replied. Sorry, too used to having to respond like that. I had some guys today ask me to do something that I know is illegal. But if I don't do it, they are going to make sure your threat against Sakura-chan happens for sure. Sarutobi stroked his chin. Just as he suspected would happen, Root was trying to use Naruto's relationship with Sakura against the boy. Once Naruto had committed the crime, they would have a hold on him that they could keep using to draw him in deeper. What is it they want you to do, Naruto? The Hokage asked. They want me to break into a warehouse and steal something illegal hidden inside it. Sarutobi stroked his beard as he thought about what Naruto was told to do. Such an act would make him a criminal and easily give Danzo's men a hold on him. Even with his plans, that might be too much of an obstacle for Naruto to get past. At last he nodded, do as they ask. Since I am aware of it, I can make sure nothing comes out against you in the end as you are under my orders. Like I told you months ago, we do not blame the subordinate for following the orders of the superior. Naruto smiled, but Sarutobi noticed that where the boy would have whooped for joy 6 months before, now he kept much more sedate and controlled. Sir, old man, could I make one request? What is it, Naruto? Could you cancel your order to have Sakura-chan sent to the legions if something goes wrong for me? I mean, I understand a lot more about what being a ninja really means these last few months, and she would make a good one. If something bad happens to me with all of this, I'd feel better knowing that Sakura-chan won't have to face that life. Sarutobi felt a surge of pride hearing that from Naruto. The boy knew what a mission could lead to death or worse, but he still looked out for someone precious to him. Consider the order rescinded, Naruto. I had no intention of sending either of you into that hellhole of a life, but I had needed to make it convincing enough to make Danzo's men approach you. They have taken much longer than I had hoped, but that is why I have had so much trouble catching them in the act. They are careful and will not hesitate to use your conscience against you until they have you trapped. Naruto smiled once more. Sakura-chan would be safe no matter what. One last question for you, Naruto. I have heard from Iruka that he has not seen you at all for months now. Are you avoiding him? Naruto ducked his head and blushed lightly in embarrassment. Actually the one day off I get, I normally end up sleeping most of the day. If he came by I don't think I would have even heard him knocking. Sarutobi chuckled lightly, you should make time to see your friend, Naruto. They are what keep a person going in the hard times. I should be leaving before the spies watching you see me. Naruto nodded, I need to leave soon. I don't expect trouble, but I was told Anbu patrols the Uchiha estate more than most places in the village. Sarutobi vanished in a puff of smoke and Naruto turned to get his gear ready. Sarutobi sat back as the memories of the shadow clone filtered into his mind. He smiled once more as he thought about Naruto's request. The boy was as strong as he had hoped. Even so, the insurance he had taken would also be of use in time. Haruno Sakura was quiet as she walked home with Naruto. The Hokage had said she would go into the legions if she failed or quit. All Kunoichi knew the horror stories that came from such a sentence. She had been doing well in this remedial class. The instructors loved to pick on both her and Naruto. But she had shown she was more than able to meet their challenges. She was proud of herself for the first time she could recall. Now, this thing the Hokage laid on her was like a blow to her confidence. She said good night to Naruto and walked into her parents' house. It was dark of course. Her mother had been moved to a shift in the evenings now that Sakura was not in the elite program. It seems her mom's boss felt that keeping in the elder Haruno's good graces was not something he needed to do any longer. She felt guilty each night the house was dark on her arrival. One more reason she had to get through this. Since her father had died years ago on a mission, she was the only Haruno left as a ninja. Her dad's commander had kept his promise and got Sakura the appointment to the academy once she qualified to get in. There were more Harunos, but her uncle and cousin were not interested in being ninja. They were content with being bureaucrats. Sakura heard a noise in the living room and peered in as she was taught. Come to Sakura, it is your parents' house after all, a familiar voice called out. She stood straight and entered the room to see the Hokage sitting on her couch holding his unlit pipe. A pair of Anbu stood on either side of it, a bear and a cat. I know I am not your favorite person at the moment, Sakura, but I have a reason for what I said this afternoon. Will you listen to what I have to say? The Hokage said in a calm voice. Sakura bit her lip and nodded, all right. Good, he said, smiling slightly. The Hokage gestured to the couch next to him and she sat as gracefully as she could. First of all Sakura, I must tell you I have no intention of sending you to the legions. I needed to say that because some people are after Naruto. Why would people be after Naruto? He's just another loser like me, Sakura replied in a soft voice. Sakura, you know that is not true, Sarutobi said in a stern voice. Kat here has been keeping an eye on things with your class for me. She is keeping me up to date on the progress of everyone, along with keeping an eye on Naruto. According to her, both you and Naruto are the top in your class and make a good team. You have a huge edge in chakra control over him while he has the physical skills. Right now, both of you can easily make genin. As far as Naruto goes, he is a special case. There are reasons I cannot tell you his secrets right now, but if he feels the need to tell you of them one day, he can tell you. Otherwise, you must wait to be told on making rank or Anbu. But going along with that, people are after him because of those secrets. Are you with me so far? Sakura nodded. Good. I would like you to keep an eye on Naruto for me. But isn't that what your Anbu is for? There are times in your class when Kat cannot know what is happening unless she reveals herself. If Naruto is approached by anyone suspicious, I need to know about it. That is why I am asking you to do this for me. As I said, you are good enough to be a genin on your own merits right now. Whatever the instructors do to try to fail you will be countered. Several of them are working for the people after Naruto and will be removed when the time comes. All I ask from you is that you keep me informed of anything strange that happens with Naruto. Sakura bit her lip and looked down. She felt relief that the sentence was not hanging over her anymore. All she needed to do was keep an eye on Naruto. He had become her best friend over the past months. She didn't like him romantically or sexually, dreams at night don't count, she clarified to herself, and he was not as bad as he had seemed when compared to Sasuke back in the academy. He actually had some good skills. She could keep an eye on her friend since she had been doing that already. Would we be able to get back into the elite program? She asked somewhat innocently. Bear chuckled softly behind his mask and Sarutobi smiled, I will not make any promises to you, Sakura. All people who graduated but washed back are given a chance to get back into the elite once they complete the remedial course. If you make it back, it has to be on your own merits. Sakura smiled softly for the first time in days. A chance was something she had not even hoped for. But earning it would be worth more to her now with all she had gone through. She had come to value achievement through working for it. For years she had seen her future as a given but came up short due to a lack of effort. Now, she is better. I'll keep an eye on Naruto for you, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi had been pleased with the meeting and set the details for informing him if something came up. This afternoon a message came that something had happened. Naruto had been asked to remain behind. Messages from Sakura, Kat and finally AM arrived quickly. He was proud of them all for trusting an old man and proving his trust in them. He wished Asuma had been as accommodating. Damn it, Dad. I just got in from dinner with my team. We ran into Naruto and Sakura. Those two are worn out. I don't know what kind of hell they are going through in that remedial class, but it is way beyond what normal genin should be getting. I know it is. I have Kat keeping an eye on them. She is keeping me informed. Asuma growled, informed is one thing, Dad. They are going to break on you, and your whole gambit is going to go down in flames. If I didn't know Sakura was acting about how she would be going into the legions, I would have believed her. Sarutobi went into a secret panel on his desk and pulled out a folder. Asuma, look at this list. This is the list of people that man Koga was working with. We have confirmed over 3 dozen root members since then, and that does not include current shinobi. If they rise up against Konoha, the results could be devastating. I have so few people I can trust involved in this that I do not know if I will even wake up in the morning. I need to think of Konoha as a whole. If Root takes this place over hundreds, thousands will die in wars started by that lunatic. He has been working in the shadows for decades, hidden from me, hidden from Minato. Several members of the clan council are on that list, Asuma. If I am forced to risk the lives of 2 genin, even if one is Minato's boy, in order to keep thousands of ninja and tens of thousands of civilians safe and happy, then I will do so. I may not like myself afterwards, and I will pay for my choices with Kami, but I will do what needs to be done for the benefit of the greatest number of people. Asuma watched as his father was both a strong leader and a tired old man as he spoke. I have done much worse than this in my lifetime, Asuma. I just pray that the path I set finds them safe at the end of it. I would rather it was me taking the risk, but even I cannot do everything. Naruto slid into the police contraband warehouse with more ease than he had expected. The key code he had been given for the door worked as he was told. There were few guards on the buildings, as genin squads had taken over most of the security duties that police used to handle before the Uchiha massacre. His only real concern was the random Anbu patrols in the area. He found the box he needed quickly and removed the items. This was much easier than getting into the tower for the scroll for Mizuki. He just reminded himself he was doing this for the Hokage to get the true thieves and traitors. Voices outside the door made him stop and wait. A team was now guarding the door and he was trapped. He had taken too long. He slid a short distance away to a point where he could not be seen if it opened and listened. Time crept by slowly. He needed to get this to the meeting point in order to succeed. He barely heard a faint tinkle of breaking glass. Footsteps leaving the door stirred him to action. He moved back to the main door and listened. Silence. He keyed in the code and the door opened. With no noise he slipped out the door and closed it behind him. Then he was moving away to become one with the shadows and his escape. He barely made it to the meeting point in time. Place the items on the ground and leave, Uzumaki. You will be contacted soon. Naruto could only nod and leave to head back to his apartment. He avoided all the patrols he could detect, but he never noticed one shadow. Bright green eyes watched him from it and a stray thought crossed the mind behind them, what the hell are you playing at, Naruto? Naruto stifled another yawn as he waited for the instructor to continue with the lessons. He already had done 3 sets of push-ups for yawning in class today. He really did not want any others. 1 more week to go and the remedial class would be completed. He was confident in his abilities now, and his chakra control was good enough that he could create as few as 5 perfect clones. Daily exercises with chakra use were routine to him now. The morning obstacle course was done over stations surrounded by 2 feet of water instead of sand. The leaping and jumping without falling in was not difficult. But crawling along the surface without falling in was always a challenge even for the best of them. Even Sakura had fallen in often on that one. He wondered why he was so tired lately. Sakura was also feeling the edges of exhaustion by mid-afternoon. None of the other students seemed as tired as the pair of them. It had been growing worse since his secret mission for the person he never saw. More often than not, he carried Sakura home at night while she slept against his back. The kunai embedded into the desk before him, Uzumaki. Wake up. I guess you want a record number of punishments in one day, don't you? Since Haruno was sitting with her eyes closed as well, she can join you. Yes, sir, both genin said as they began doing the required push-ups and counting each one out loud. I want both of you to remain after class today. We need to discuss your behavior. Hours later and even more tired, Naruto and Sakura were waiting for the instructor to come in. They had already been waiting for a half hour when the man walked in. Good, neither of you is sitting down. You are not as dumb as some of the students I have had. Now, what the hell is wrong with both of you? The past few weeks you both have been slipping up badly. You are falling asleep in class and I have seen Uzumaki carrying you home almost every night, Haruno. Are you eating right? Are you not sleeping at night? What is going on? Sakura answered first, I don't know sir. I have been getting 9, sometimes 10 hours of sleep a night and I have been eating twice as much as I did in my academy days. I am good in the morning, but as the day goes by, I am just more and more worn out. I feel the same way sir. I am not as tired as Sakura is, but by the end of the day I feel like I have been training all day without eating. I have seconds at lunch and I still have no energy. The instructor nodded. He was a veteran with over 18 years of service. He knew these kids should never have been in the remedial program, they were too good for that. Over the years, he had developed a sense about these things. They could easily get back into the elite program by finishing in the top of this class. But over the past month, both had been slowly sliding down in the rankings. Not from getting worse, but from not improving as fast as they had early on, so the others were slowly passing them. At this point, they were on the borderline on making it back into elite. He had seen that happen before to good students getting washed back into remedial training. Starting off well, they slowly fell behind as the others grew faster in ability. They never got back to elite status and simply vanished into the thousands of ordinary ninja. Both Uzumaki and Haruno seemed to be suffering from borderline chakra exhaustion. But he had not had the class doing chakra exercises today. He rubbed his chin as he thought. If they had not used chakra it would be building back up. But if their chakra kept draining, it had to be something else. Both of you strip down to your underwear, he finally said. Dear sir. Sakura stammered as she blushed. Yes, here Haruno. Now. Consider it a training exercise to get over modesty. It might come up on a mission that you need to be unclothed around others. Just do it. Yes, sir, both replied and somewhat shakily both pulled off their uniforms. In minutes, Naruto stood in his boxers and t-shirt while Sakura was in just her panties and a camisole top. Naruto averted his eyes as much as he could, but he was still tempted to peek. His nose started to itch terribly and he felt something else happen before he finally just turned away from Sakura entirely. Sakura blushed badly when she saw Naruto peeking over at her and frowned when he turned away. He must think she was ugly. Sure, she was not as built as Ino was, but still he didn't have to look away. Naruto looked over at the instructor, sir, may I sit please? The instructor looked at Naruto and chuckled, oh to be 13 again. The raging hormones of puberty I could do without, but I guess he is only human in his reaction. He glanced at Sakura who was trying to hide in plain sight, and straight as well. Fine, both of you can sit. I'll be back in a few minutes. The instructor picked up the uniforms and left. The teen sat in silence as the minutes ticked by. Naruto had turned in his seat slightly so Sakura could see more of his back than his side. Naruto had his hands folded on his lap and just sat still, looking away from her. Is something wrong, Naruto? She finally asked. No, he replied in a strained voice. Sakura grumbled. She knew something was wrong, so she did what she always did when something bothered her, she thought about it. He rubbed his nose then turned away from me and will not look anymore. He did it after I took off my uniform. Oh gross. She looked down at herself. Maybe she was not as bad looking as she thought and smiled slightly before getting an evil twinkle in her eye. Naruto stood in front of the line facing Iruka, make a hinge, Naruto. Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke. What appeared out of it was a naked buxom blonde girl with long pigtails. She pouted and bit her lip at Iruka who then flew back with blood spewing from his nose. Naruto almost calmed down when a soft little girl's voice whispered in his ear, Naruto-kun, don't you want to look at me anymore? Naruto paled then blushed darker than ever. Visions danced before his eyes before darkness fell. Sakura giggled as Naruto's nose seemed to spew blood before the blonde passed out. Well, at least he likes girls, she thought as she sat back down. Sasuke never reacted like that to anyone. The instructor returned after roughly a half hour. He saw both teens looking much more alert than they had in class only an hour before. Naruto was frantically wiping up a stain while Sakura studiously ignored him. Teenagers, even as ninjas they're still teenagers, he thought, holding in a chuckle. He tossed the clothes back to Naruto and Sakura. Wash those tonight and wear them again tomorrow. Bring any other uniforms you have with you to this address after class tomorrow. He passed them each a business card. Sir? Sakura began to ask. No questions. It was an order, Haruno. Follow the order and ask no questions. The instructor raised an eyebrow as he spoke. Do you understand? Yes, sir, the teens replied as he sent them off. The instructor frowned as he watched them leave. Why would a pair of washed-out elites have low-end chakra-restricting seals sewn into their uniforms? He thought for a long time about it. Only prisoners have something like that. It was not enough of a restriction to stop them, just hinder them. Someone wants these kids to fail to make it back into elite. He would stop at the clothing shop tonight to see his old classmate before going home. His friend had made Anbu before suffering a career-ending injury. It had been a long time since they went out for drinks together. The following day in class, Naruto and Sakura were almost hyperactive. Neither one cared about it because they were glad to not be falling asleep. The instructor knew that something seriously wrong was going on, so he decided that he needed to poke his nose into the file room before going to see his buddy with the kids. He looked through his own personal class notes for elites that he remembered as failing the remedial class. He only had 2 or 3 in the years he had been an instructor in this program. Looking at it now with a recent knowledge of a pattern, he could see it quite easily. He went to the main file room for the training center to see where those students had ended up. The file room was rather large, as a good number of elite program trainees came through the center. He looked for the one he had 2 years before but was puzzled when the file he was looking for was not there. That is strange, I know he graduated. I passed him after all. His name is not even on the graduation list in this file now. What could have? Anzo-sama, we have a problem. Chapter 7. Into the fire. Naruto and Sakura waited at the clothing shop for over an hour before someone called them into the back. A man with a heavy limp gestured for the uniforms they both carried. He was gruff but not rude to them. So you two are Ito's students, huh? The ones he was bringing over for new uniforms? I'm not sure. We only called our instructors sir, Sakura replied. I talked to him last night. Pinky and Whiskers were the pair he talked about. That's you two. Did he tell you anything else past to show up here? No, sir, Naruto replied. The shopkeeper grumbled, that means he stumbled into something he shouldn't have. Okay, you two listen up. There is a lot going on in Konoha and somehow the pair of you are now in the middle of it and deeply involved in something you're not ready for. He pointed at a label in one of the uniforms, see this? It is a chakra restriction seal. Every one of your uniforms has one in the pants and shirt. Where did you get these clothes? Naruto looked shocked but stuttered out, from the quartermaster, before shutting up. The boy wilted under the shopkeeper's glare at giving such shoddy information until Sakura answered, our first instructor at the remedial classes sent us there for uniforms. We did not think anything of it because we had no other suitable clothing. The shopkeeper nodded, that makes sense. Someone was trying to set both of you up so you could not make it back into the elite program. Then you could just disappear when you are out of sight. Anbu looked for that conduit for years and never stumbled onto it. Naruto looked worried, sir, are we in trouble? You two specifically? No, not yet. You're definitely in danger but not in trouble. And knock it off with the dang sirs. If you need to call me something, call me Hero. I am an old friend of your instructor. The door chime sounded and Hero motioned for them to be quiet as he went to the front. Naruto could barely hear some conversation happening, but he did not want to move closer to find out. Minutes passed before Hero came back into the room leading a purple-haired woman. This is another old friend of mine, kids. She works here part-time. Her name is Yugao. Pinky, go with her for a few minutes. Since you are here, I'll get you set up with a few new outfits. The ones you have are really worn out and fit you like a tent. It was a good thing Ito suggested you come here instead of the quartermaster this time. Yugao offered to help Pinky because I hate helping Kunoichi find clothes. Sakura looked confused but followed Yugao out to the main part of the store after Yugao glared at Hiro. Hiro then turned to Naruto and spoke in low tones. When you next get a Hokage-sized ramen delivered, tell your friend that Blue Aardvark says hello and is waiting for the word with all of his friends. Now, this is not something Pinky needs to hear, understand? Naruto nodded slowly and was intimidated by the change in the man before him. Good, I have some idea of what is going on. Don't ask me how or why, just listen. Rude is very interested in you. They are not your friends. They are planning something big in the next few months and you have become a part of their plans. Yugao tells me my friend Ito is in the hospital right now and he may die. He found something out and now those bastards are going to pay for hurting him. You have kept a lot of things quiet up until now, but in the next few weeks you will be forced to pick a side. Make sure it is the right one." Naruto could only nod slowly as his fear grew. The man in front of him grew less intense after a few seconds and smiled, "So, what size pants are you going to need? You look like about 30 inseams." I'm 29, Naruto said confusedly. "Meh, go with a 30, you'll be hitting a growth spurt eventually," Hiro said. "Oh, geez, stop looking so scared. I am serious about what I said, but you need to remember. Real ninja work is not done by the elite. It was done by people like me. The elites are good but we are the best." "We?" "Yeah, Ito never mentions it to anyone. He didn't make the cut. But no matter what someone else may say in the next few months, elite is not the best there is. Anbu is. You are Anbu only when you have earned the right from your peers. Being Anbu means you are Anbu for life." Hiro smirked as Naruto nodded slowly and tried on the clothes the shopkeeper bought him. "I wish I could tell you, boy. Only one other Uzumaki ever lived in this village. She was one of the best of us. I owe her more than I can ever repay." Sakura went with Yugao out to the main shop floor. She just looked nervous as the older Kunoichi held up various pants and shirts against her. "Relax, Sakura, he'll be fine with Hiro. You're doing a good job watching him for the Hokage." Sakura stopped and looked at Yugao. "What do you mean?" Yugao smirked, "Meow." Sakura was puzzled for a moment before she got it. "Oh. Yeah, oh. I saw that stunt your instructor pulled yesterday with the uniforms. I was tempted to kill him for it, but someone else almost beat me to it." Yugao looked unconcerned as she held up a different dark-colored shirt against Sakura. "This one should fit you better than those standard rags of yours. Go try it on." Sakura was almost freaking out. She managed to keep her voice low. "How can you talk about killing someone and be so calm about it?" Yugao said, "We're ninja. That's what we do. Here, these pants should fit you okay. Being all showy and flashy is for the elites. They kill sometimes but not often. Elites make ninja look less like a covert strike force than we really are. Public relations is one thing, but you don't honestly think the classes in killing were just for show, did you?" Sakura blustered, "Well no, but you make it sound like you were buying groceries or something." "Not really, but the day it becomes like buying groceries is the day you need to stop doing it and get out," Yugao said softly. "Anyway, you handled Naruto pretty well in that classroom. You could go far if you chose to. First time you ever see a boy with that reaction." Sakura nodded as she dressed, "Yes. It freaked me out at first, but I sorta felt good about it after a bit. No one else ever reacted like that. Yeah, just so you know, a lot of us girls have a pot going on if the Uchiha is gay or not. Lem see how that looks on you." Yugao looked at Sakura and nodded. "Shirt is good. Not too baggy, but loose enough to hide some things in. Pants just tight enough to show some shape but not skin tight. A few more years and you could be mistaken for a professional like us." Sakura looked confused at Yugao. "You make it sound like I'm one of you. I'm not even an official genin yet." "True, you're not a genin officially, but as far as potentially being one of us, you could be someday if you get the right experience. But for that, you need to choose. Something is going to happen soon. Your teacher set off more than he realized by finding those files. They know we are onto them. People are going to have to decide where they stand with the Hokage and how Konoha is or with Root and the war machine Danzo wants to make of it. I need you to wait out here while I talk to Naruto," Yugao finished. Sarutobi looked at the ninja laying in the ICU. Multiple stab wounds littered his back and chest. "I need to know what happened for certain. Kat tells me he found something in the files, but she couldn't tell exactly what. Their entire drawer was covered in blood. Something about the most recent washbacks." He sighed as he looked over to a second ninja in a similar state. "This one I did not even suspect of being Root. This means they have infiltrated the training system as well. Danzo could have hundreds of ninja en route by now and the rest of us none the wiser. It all comes down to the contents of that file. Get back here quickly, Kat. I need that information. How could I have overlooked having Naruto tell me who contacted him?" "Danzo-sama, we have a problem," the operative said. "What is it?" the crippled man replied in his rough voice. "Our man in the elite remedial training program is in the hospital. We do not know why because Anbu has sealed off the area. All we know is that it was in the records room and 2 people were taken to the hospital with life-threatening wounds. A large amount of spilled blood was observed. Get people as close to it as possible, I need to know what happened," Danzo said in a low voice. Yugao walked into the back of the shop. "Wow, Hiro, you have him looking like a without the vest. Naruto, the Hokage needs to know why your current teacher would be in the records room of the training center. Is he the man who contacted you about doing that job for Root?" Naruto looked over confused, "What are you talking about? What job?" Yugao was getting frustrated. First she had to help out a Kunoichi find decent clothes, and now the kid with information she needed to get for the Hokage was playing games. She grabbed Naruto by the shirt and pushed him hard back into the wall. One hand slid down into her fanny pack and pulled out her cat mask and held it over her face for a moment before continuing, "The Hokage sent me to get some information from Yu Uzumaki. He visits you once a week with a shadow clone to find out if anyone has contacted you. If something happens you are to go to Ichiraku's ramen and order a Hokage-sized ramen to go, and he will get to you as quickly as possible. I do not have time for word games with you, boy. Answer my questions. Who contacted you to do the job for Root?" "My teacher did." Hiro broke in, "Ito could not have been your contact." "No, it was the first guy who contacted me. I never knew his name. He never told us," Naruto said in a shaky voice. "Ito talked to me some last night. He mentioned a few of his suspicions about what he knew and a theory. We were talking for 3 hours last night, Yuigao. It would take me some time to relay all of it," Hiro told the upset woman. "Take Naruto to the Hokage and let him start with what he knows while I get over to the tower. With this bum leg it will take me nearly an hour to get there. If Fruit sees me getting carried there, they will know something is up. Right, take the very kid that the Hokage threatened to send to the legions in public to see him in the open. Are you freaking insane?" Yuigao yelled. Hiro smirked, "I have been called worse. But you just said he almost looks like a. Now suppose we toss a vest on him and with his headgear and a little face paint over the whiskers, instant." "That is completely dumb, Hiro." Yuigao sighed. "But it just might work right now." Naruto grinned, "So all I have to do is tell him everything I know, right? About the teacher and the seals and all that." "Oh, what were those seals called again?" They heard a voice behind them, "Chakra restriction seals." Hiro and Yuigao spun with drawn weapons and saw Sakura standing in the doorway. "I heard the yelling and then half the stuff on the wall out there fell down. I'm surprised the shop next door is not coming over to see what is going on," Sakura explained. "You kids are really beginning to piss me off. I need to get this information to the Hokage as soon as possible." The Hokage said that he and Naruto make a good team. "Together we might have the information you need. I was there when we got the uniforms. They were doing this to me too. After yesterday, I am in this whether I like it or not," Sakura pleaded. "Drrrrrr, I don't have time to argue this. Fine, you're coming too. Cover that hair and let's go." Hiro pulled out a pair of vests and tossed them to Naruto and Sakura saying, "I want those back when you get back here. Take the old uniforms too. The Hokage will want to see the seals. I'll get to the tower with what Ito told me." Yuigao put on her mask while Naruto and Sakura fumbled while putting on the vests and headgear. They picked up the old uniforms and nodded. "Let's go," said Kat. The trio managed to get to the Hokage without an incident. Saratobi did a double take seeing Sakura and Naruto in their disguises, but quickly took over an empty hospital room to discuss things. Naruto quickly told of the teacher who approached him and the seals in the uniforms. Sakura followed up with more information and the name of the person who provided the uniforms. Photographic memory does help sometimes, she thought. Hat told him that Hiro was getting to the tower with more information from his conversation the night before with Ito. Saratobi was upset that a teacher who had vital information but could not tell them was ruining everything in his plan to flush out Root. His plan had started out simple, but now things were spiraling out of control because of an earnest teacher trying to help his students. The internal war he feared was closer to being set off than it was before he planned this gambit. His time for deciding action to prevent an all-out civil war was fading by the minute. "Sir," Sakura interrupted. "I know I don't know everything, but the core move of your entire plan was to get Naruto into the hands of this Root group." "Yes, that is an amazing deduction from hearing so little about this, Sakura. But after tonight they will not likely be going near him. In fact I think that if they find out he was going to be a plant, they would be after him to keep him quiet," Saratobi said with a resigned tone. "So Naruto and anyone else who was working against them would become a target once word of this whole sting operation gets out?" Sakura asked in a timid voice. "Yes, I need to find a way to hush this up before the truth of this attack gets out, but I need a plausible story. Something that can make the original plan still work," Saratobi rubbed his chin trying to think. "What would it take for them to take him?" Kat asked. "After this mess? He would have to be hunted down and have no place else to hide," Saratobi said. Naruto shuddered as he felt a chill and looked back at Sakura. "Sakura-chan, I don't like that smile on your face." "Okage-sama, what if he was being hunted for questioning and a murder attempt?" Sakura asked. Saratobi, Kat and Naruto were speechless. "Well, Hokage-sama, you did threaten us in public with being sent to the legions if we failed. What if Ito, our teacher, was telling us we were failing? He punished us often this past week and in front of the class. The people in it know he kept us after class yesterday." "Sakura-chan, what do you mean by we?" Naruto asked. Think about it, Naruto. The seals in my clothes mean Root was after me as well. Also, what about taking out the teachers? Do you think one genin could take out two teachers even by surprise? With both of us we could manage it. We ambushed one in the file room, the other one heard the noise, and we ambushed him as well to get away. We tried to make it look like they fought each other. We learned how to do that in class, remember? We changed clothes and left the bloody ones somewhere, but they got found and we needed a place to hide. We can figure it out from there. Hokage-sama can put out an alert for our capture for questioning in the matter and tell the Anbu he trusts to avoid finding us until Root does. Hat spoke up, that is an insane plan. It would never work. Actually, it might, Sarutobi said quietly. But it would mean a major sacrifice for both of you. I will not allow it. Naruto spoke up, old man, Hokage-sama, do you think the Danzo would let me get away, knowing that he was almost found out and exposed? Not just me, but Sakura-chan as well. We would spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders to make sure we aren't stabbed in the back. We have to risk this now. Get rid of them now while we have a chance or spend the rest of our lives in fear. Sarutobi cursed himself for dragging this pair of children into this plan. Now, they were shaming him by behaving like true warriors and ninja when he wanted to put them safely aside and protect them. Hat, could we get blood from both men onto uniforms that Naruto and Sakura had with them just now? Maybe plant them somewhere in the civilian sectors of the village? Sarutobi asked. Doing it would be easy enough, Hokage-sama, Cat replied. Before I order this, I have to hear it from each of you. I am asking you to consider that it can cost you your lives. You can choose not to do this, and I will not think any less of either of you, Sarutobi said as he looked at each teen in turn. I will do it, Hokage-sama, replied Naruto without hesitation. I will do it as well, Hokage-sama, answered Sakura immediately after. Alright, I will get this set up. I hope you can both forgive an old man for using you both like this one day. Cat, get the clothing ready. Use your own discretion for planting it. Hat nodded and left with the uniforms in hand. There is something else I was supposed to tell you, old man, Naruto said. It was from someone I met tonight, but I am not sure if it was a secret or not. Should I whisper it to you or should I just say it in front of Sakura-chan? Can you give us a moment in private, Sakura? Sarutobi asked. Sakura nodded and stepped out of the room. Old man, the guy named Hiro who got us these clothes asked me to tell you that Blue Aardvark is waiting for the word. Sarutobi nodded thoughtfully. Blue Aardvark was one of the larger groups of retired and former Anbu that had sprung up in Konoha. Knowing they were behind the Hokage in retirement as they had been on active duty was a surprise benefit in all of this. Thank you Naruto, that does help me. More than you know. The pair called Sakura back in and they waited until Kat returned from her mission. The clothes are planted in Hokage-sama. They should be found in the morning. I left them in the merchant's district a block away from Hiro's shop. That will also allow Naruto and Sakura to explain away new clothes when Root finds them. Hat looked at the pair, give me those vests before you leave. I hope to see you both safe and sound at the end of this. After the pair had left, Kat turned to the Hokage, Hokage-sama, that question you asked them. It sounded very much like the 10th question asked in the Chunin exam's written test. Sarutobi nodded, I know Kat. It was meant to. Both of them are mentally ready to be. Now, we need to meet your friend Hiro at the tower. I will have torture and interrogation take charge of the men in ICU if either wakes. We need to keep them silent and safe until this plan unfolds. Perhaps the one should die to prevent him from returning to his master. Naruto and Sakura moved in the darkness to a more isolated part of Konoha. The areas within the walls where the Kyuubi had destroyed many buildings were largely uninhabited. Naruto found them a comfortable place to rest in an abandoned old house. This is going to be rough, Sakura-chan, Naruto said as they tried to get some rest. What else can we do, Naruto? Sakura asked. If we don't do it, they'll come after us. This way we have a chance. We should get some sleep while we can. Naruto just nodded and lay back on the creaking floor. Dawn came to Konoha. It was a bright sunny day without a cloud in the sky. Shouts rose up from the merchant district as a woman found the bloody clothes. Word passed quickly as the Anbu arrived and took charge of things. By noon, the word had spread to most of the ninja of Konoha, bringing Uzumaki Naruto and Haruno Sakura for questioning as witnesses in the attack on 2 instructors. Experienced genin teams that had been preparing for the Chunin exams in another few weeks had been mobilized to search the village. The rookies had been kept together by their teachers since they had known the missing students only months before. Teams 8 and 10 talked about it but decided they really did not know Sakura and Naruto that well after all. Shikamaru just lay there and said troublesome, even though his mind worked frantically on the puzzle. Hinata fretted some but said nothing. The search had been widespread, but not that intense as it was only for questioning. The people looking felt that if it was truly serious, then Anbu would have been dispatched to find the pair. A day passed and no clue had been found on the missing students. Sakura's mother was worried, while many civilians were commenting that it was only the Uzumaki boy, finally showing his true colors. Retired ninjas kept quiet while a slow message was passed among a small group of them. Deep under Konoha, Danzo growled out an order, find them and bring them to us. If they are caught, Uzumaki will be locked up in a prison so tight that I will never get him. Haruno is not as important, but she could be useful. Sakura and Naruto spent the day planning out their story. They decided to lace it liberally with the truth and only a few lies to link the facts and distort them. The teacher kept them after class like everyone knew. The next day he told them they were going to fail. He told them to return in secret that night if they wanted to pass. When they returned, he told them that he would pass them if Sakura earned their grade. Since she decided that she would never allow that to happen, he went to the record rooms to write the failure in their records. Sakura told Naruto that since he was in the same situation, if they didn't stop him, they would be gone. Naruto went along with the plan and they attacked the teacher. Their first teacher heard the noise and came in, so they were forced to attack him and hoped that it looked like the pair got into a fight. Once out of the training area, they headed for the marketplace under cover of night and stole the clothing from the shop after the man limped out for the night. Then they hid. Naruto nodded and made sure that he understood it. Sakura-chan, why were you in the elite program? Naruto asked after they had sat quietly for a time. Well, my dad was an ordinary ninja. He was never that good at it. I mean, he made it, but he was just a military ninja. His squad leader saw that his control was great, he just had so little chakra that he could barely get through training. He did something for his commander once, he saved him I think, and he died for it. It took him a long time to die too. Sakura choked up at this part, but Naruto waited in silence until she could continue. Well, when I was old enough, he came to see me. He decided that since I was smart enough and had more chakra than my dad, that he would sponsor me to get into the academy if I wanted. He said he had made a promise to my dad. So, I took it. And fell in love with Sasuke. Sakura stuck her tongue out at Naruto for that one. Well, he was cute and looked like he would make a good guy to have as a boyfriend. Now, I'm not so sure. He was always cold to me. He had great skills, but he was so full of himself. I didn't see those things about him from being so close to him. He put down my training and called you a loser. It is almost funny now. With all the intense training we've had, I'm at least on the level he was before he left the academy. You're way above that. Now, my turn for personal questions. I know you're alone and an orphan, so how did you get in? And why didn't all those pranks get you thrown out? She asked. The old man, Hokage-sama, sponsored me. I think he got a lot of flack over it too. The first day I was there, several teachers all tried to throw me out, but he paid them a visit. Looking back, I realized that he was making them accept me. I never really knew why anyone wouldn't want me around. No one paid any attention to me after that. I had to draw attention to myself, so I started doing pranks. Naruto stopped there when he heard his stomach growl. He looked down and tapped his pockets. I think we forgot to plan on getting something to eat. We might have to get out of here anyhow. I don't think we would get found like this by route if we stay here. I might try sneaking back to my place later on. The old man said they watched it. Sakura looked confused. Where do you live anyway? Naruto grinned. Actually, it's not that far away from here. That's how I knew this place would be deserted. Going back to my place to hide would have been stupid. Well, you're not going without me. I am going stir crazy just waiting, Sakura grumbled. The pair waited until just after dark before they ventured out. Naruto led Sakura on a winding course to his apartment. She was surprised that it was in such an old rundown building. A genin squad lounged around the building entrance. Naruto silently pointed at police security seals on the windows before gesturing they would go to the roof. He avoided the team and climbed up the fire escape to the roof. He slid open a panel she didn't even notice and dropped down into the bedroom. Sakura dropped down after peeking in. Naruto was busy stuffing various articles of clothing under the bed. She really did not want to know what, but was glad he had enough courtesy to try. Afterward, he pulled out a box of scrolls and stuffed a few into his shirt. He handed some to Sakura and whispered, "These are important, we take these too. Wait here while I grab some things from the kitchen and living room." Naruto snuck out and to her surprise he walked right down the middle of the hall. She was about to say something about stealth when she realized that this was his house. He would know where every potentially squeaky floorboard was. He returned in minutes holding a bag of food and some bottles. He had strapped several weapons pouches to his body. This should be all we need for a few days. I figure that by tomorrow, since we have not been found, the old man will send Anbu after us. I think that was normal procedure. The rude man might not have seen us coming in, but I spotted him from the kitchen. We'll go west off the roof and end up going right past him. Sakura raised an eyebrow at this. How did you know they were watching you? Naruto grinned the old foxy grin she had not seen in months. Sakura-chan, I always know when someone is watching me, even the Anbu. He boosted Sakura back to the roof. He passed her the supplies before climbing out. He led her off the roof and jumped to the next building before nearly landing on the root agent watching his apartment. The man did not move until both teens had a good start before following. Shortly after that, Kat rose from her own hiding spot and much more discreetly headed for the Hokage Tower. When the pair had returned to their hideout, they ate the fruit and field rations Naruto had brought. Naruto passed her some of the weapons he had brought as well. A quick look into the pouch showed them to be actual weapons, not the training ones they normally had. Sakura looked at them like they were bugs, but sighed and took them anyhow. How did you get your hands on real weapons, Naruto? We can't buy these yet, she asked. You would be surprised at some of the things you can find lying around in the training fields, Sakura-chan. I would make pocket money collecting the lost and broken weapons and selling them to the blacksmiths. I just kept a few for myself. But why do we need them now? She persisted. We need to look armed and dangerous, Sakura-chan. We supposedly attacked 2 teachers. For that, we need to have weapons. We also might have to fight at some point, he said. They sat in silence after that. Sakura drifted to sleep while Naruto was just watching the moonlight cross the floor when a noise drew his attention. A voice drifted in the silence, Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, come with me if you wish to get out of this situation. Naruto shook Sakura awake before he whispered, how do we get out of this? We won't go to the legions. You have nowhere else to turn, Uzumaki. I can offer you an alternative to what you face now. Murder charges carry the death penalty. One of the instructors died this afternoon, the voice continued. Sakura whispered now, if you betray us too, I'll stab you just like I did them. The flower is deadly. Good. We can use that. Now, come down and join me. We have patrols to avoid and little time before Anbu begins to search. No one expected mere students to hide so well. The teen slowly opened the door and exited the building. A man in a mask much like an Anbu waited. Now, follow me. If you fail to follow or attract attention, the offer will be rescinded. Naruto and Sakura followed the masked ninja for over an hour as he moved in an almost random fashion around the village. They nearly lost him once, but reached the goal the person intended. They were directed to go down and access into the tunnels under the village. The heavy iron cover slid into place with a clank and the pair descended into the unknown. Chapter 8. Descent into Darkness. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, was annoyed. He should have been pleased because his plan was finally working. If anything, his plan was going too well. This meeting with the investigators and other people involved in the case was more window dressing, but it could turn against the people he was trying to protect. Alright, we are all here. Inoichi, what has happened with this case? He asked. Yamanaka Inoichi stood and looked at the various people in the room. Well, this started out looking like a simple fight between 2 teachers that got out of hand. However, other evidence has been gathered by Anbu to show it is something else entirely. Yesterday morning, a shop owner found some bloody uniforms in her trash. Anbu was called since they handle things of that nature. A routine check of other businesses close by showed that a ninja supply store had been burglarized during the night. Several shelves had been knocked over and the owner thinks some clothing may have been taken. The uniforms had the names of Haruno and Uzumaki sewn into them. The pair was then called in for questioning, but neither could be found. A wider search of the village by multiple genin squads turned up nothing. The apartment of Uzumaki was sealed pending further investigation. The blood on the clothing was analyzed and found to match both men in the attack. The past 12 hours have changed things. The hospital reports that one of the instructors involved has died of his wounds. During the night, the apartment of Uzumaki had been entered in spite of seals on all doors and windows. Multiple items had been removed including food and weapons. We were unable to trace them once they left the roof. Inuzuka hounds at the scene to track the culprits were rendered useless by sneezing powder. Weapons? How did a student get hold of real weapons? One secretary asked. Anbu and reports show that Uzumaki scavenges used and broken weaponry from training areas he has access to and sells the materials he gathers to local blacksmiths. He has done this for years now. He kept a portion of what he found. Continuing on, officers interviewed members of the class one of the wounded instructors was assigned. Uzumaki and Haruno were members of that class and had been frequently punished for sleeping in class or not paying attention. They had been asked to remain after class the day before the attacks. Class records show they were on the edge of failing completely. The files of the 2 also had a consequence for failing the class of being sent to the daimyo's legions. They generated a murmur in the briefing room. Being sent to the legions was for criminals and thieves. It involved having a person's chakra sealed and the person branded. It was a painful process that many would commit suicide to avoid. Sarutobi just sat quietly with a stern look on his face. Intelligence has come up with the following chain of events based on current evidence. The instructor wanted to see Uzumaki and Haruno, likely to inform them that they were failing the class. The pair must have attacked him and wounded him. The noise would have attracted another instructor. This person had been an earlier instructor for the pair, and interviews show he was harsher on the pair than their current one. He was wounded much more heavily. We think they then set things up to look like the instructors had attacked each other and fled. In the merchants' district, they burglarized a clothing shop and threw out the bloody clothing. We have no clue what they did next as we have been unable to locate them. One of them in the room sneered, "How hard is it to find a pair of students? You must not have been trying very hard." Inoichi looked back. "Yesterday we were looking for a pair of students who might have been witnesses to a crime. We did not assume at the time they might have been responsible for it. The evidence of the bloody clothing was not connected to the case until late last night. Different divisions were handling two separate cases. Once they were brought together, the larger case was more sinister." Narashikaku spoke up next. "Do not forget, this boy is Uzumaki Naruto. He has demonstrated in the past an ability to hide and evade capture that is far beyond his training level. His painting of the Hokage mountain and subsequent chase around Konoha should be noted as such a feat showing his level of skill. His only true weakness is his lack of discipline and impetuousness. Haruno is a highly intelligent girl whose only reason for being in that class was her lack of physical ability in the academy. If they are working in concert, they would be a formidable team. My son and Inoichi's daughter went to the academy with these two. Uzumaki had a large crush on the girl and would be easily swayed if both were desperate. Her intelligence coupled with his skills and the past 6 months of intense military training would make them the equal of most genin teams." Sarutobi growled, "I have heard enough. Send word to all ninja in Konoha. I want the pair of them captured and brought in alive. With Uzumaki's condition, his death or the death of the girl could trigger him to release what he contains. This will not be allowed to happen. I trust Yondame's seal, but it is also powered by his will. Up until now, he has not been given a reason to release the demon. But I foolishly allowed my anger at him to influence my decisions about him. Bring them both alive unless you wish for Konoha to die." The meeting adjourned. Sarutobi motioned for Inoichi and Shikaku to remain behind. He spoke to them in low tones, "Thank you for your help in this briefing. At least 2 of Danzo's people were in this meeting. The information you presented would make most sensible people afraid to try to kill either Naruto or Sakura, so that is the best we can do for them for now. Tell Ibiki to get all the men he can trust absolutely. In less than 72 hours, we are going to pull out this offending route. Shibi should have a solid location trace by then." The room they were waiting in was barely lit by a single 15-watt bulb. Naruto sat somewhat calmly trying to look like he was meditating while Sakura was nervous in the enclosed space. Finally she snapped, "How can you just sit there calmly, Naruto? They left us alone here." Naruto opened one eye and looked at Sakura, "No, they haven't. We're still on duty." When the pink-haired girl looked at him, he raised one eyebrow slightly. She seemed to get the message and started to calm down. "Sakura-chan, I always know when someone is watching me, even the Anbu." The words rung in her memory. They were being watched and tested right now. They were on duty. "Interesting," a voice murmured. "They have some more intimate knowledge of each other than we had thought." "What do you mean, sir?" asked one person in the darkness. He was reassuring her. "Did you notice how she calmed down after he spoke?" "What shall we do about it, Danzo-sama?" "Nothing for now. Assign them to Trainer 6, he only has 1 student at this time. They might work well with that one. His emotional training is nearly complete and his skills would complement the pair. I am loath to separate them until they get more conditioned. Keeping them together is a smaller security risk. If what our people say is true, disposing of her directly could cause trouble. Keep them away from the core areas." Sakura looked up as the door finally opened. A gray-haired boy in his late teens stood there. "Exit the room and follow," was all he said. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other before following. The older teen led them along a winding path until they came to another room. The teen gestured for Naruto and Sakura to enter. The room they entered was tiled and looked like a shower room. "Remove all of your clothing and place it on the table," the teen said in a steady voice as he pointed to a table. Naruto and Sakura just looked at him. When neither moved, the teen repeated, "Remove all of your clothing and place it on the table. Compliance is required." Sakura's eyebrow twitched as her temper flared. "I am not getting naked in front of you perverts." The gray-haired teen just looked at Sakura. "Failure to comply will result in your being removed from this facility and turned over to the Hokage to exact the death sentence awaiting you for the killing of a Konoha ninja. Remove all of your clothing and place it on the table." Slowly, Naruto started removing his clothes and shortly afterward Sakura started to remove hers as well. The gray-haired boy waited in silence in the hallway without a sign of emotion on his face. Sakura's anger faded as her sense of modesty took over. She glanced at Naruto, who made sure to stare at a spot on the wall just over the door. Inside she smiled, as she knew he was trying to respect her as much as he could. She had wished someone she loved would be the first to see her naked, but that option had gone when they agreed to this mission. Her anger returned enough for her to not try to hide behind her arms, as the older teen had not even reacted. "Wash yourselves, then return to this spot," the gray-haired teen said as he pointed at the showers. Naruto just turned and just went to the shower, deliberately not looking at Sakura. She turned as well and went. The water was tepid at best and only had on and off as settings. Both quickly finished and waded back where they had started. The older teen had removed everything from the table and it only contained 2 towels, 2 plain jumpsuits and their sandals. "You will be taken to your sleeping quarters now," he said in that annoying monotone of his. Naruto leaned close to Sakura after they had dried and got the jumpsuits on. Before he could speak a word, the older boy said, "Talking outside of relaying mission information is prohibited." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the gray-haired teen but decided to bide his time. Instead he spoke in a low voice, "I assume there is some list of all these rules of yours somewhere. All root members do as they are commanded to, that is all you need to worry about," was the reply. "Funny, I don't recall saying I was becoming a root member," Naruto countered in the same low tone as before. "I was made an offer of an alternative and I've seen so far are flunkies. I am waiting for the rest of the offer." "You followed, you entered this facility. That implies acceptance. If you go against that, you risk harm befalling your comrade. You harm one hair on Sakura-chan, and I will bring this entire complex down around your ears," Naruto said with a growl. "That is a hollow threat. If you do so, you will kill Haruno as well." Sakura watched this interplay, soaking up information. This gray-haired person was under complete control of himself. He did not even look like his heart had sped up once. "Naruto," Sakura said in an equally low tone. "We need a place to hide for now." Naruto took a deep breath and relaxed his posture. The monitor screen flickered in the darkness. It seems Haruno does have some effect on Uzumaki as well. Did you notice his whole posture had become more feral until Haruno spoke to him? She might be of more use than we had first thought if she can help control him. "We shall see," Danzo replied. "We shall see. Wake them after 1 hour of sleep but do not let them know how much time has passed. After that, they never get more than 4 hours of rest per day." Naruto and Sakura were led to adjacent cells close to the shower room. Each was 10 feet by 6 feet with a sleeping mat and a toilet. The gray-haired teen ushered each into a cell and the doors were bolted from the outside. Sakura lay down to rest, some in spite of not really needing sleep yet. The sleeping mat was barely thicker than a gym mat. They apparently do not go for comfort here. "I hope Naruto was able to keep track of where we are. I lost track after we were brought underground. Between low light and large areas with none, I cannot even be sure if we passed any side tunnels." Naruto lay back as well. He was troubled by the fact that the old man had not given them a means to contact him. He understood the reasons from his training in the past 6 months, but he still didn't like it. Sleep nagged at the edge of his consciousness as he thought of what else he could do. Barely after both teens had fallen asleep, they were awakened. The gray-haired boy had both of them follow him to an open area, but still underground. "This is where you shall train. En route, there is only the mission. Your mission right now is to obey. For your training, I have been given the name Shin. There will be another joining us shortly. Until then, you will spar with each other." Naruto and Sakura faced each other and began with basic sparring motions when Shin called for them to stop. "That is not sparring. You are merely exercising. When you spar here, you are doing your best to deal damage to your opponent. Do you understand?" Naruto was tempted to glare but only replied, "Yes sir." He faced Sakura again and went at her full force. He quickly broke through her defenses and sent her to the floor, gasping for air from a punch to her abdomen. Shin spoke in the same dull tone as before, "Only by fighting at your hardest will a person learn to defend properly. If they cannot defend themselves, they will be dead weight on a mission and cause it to fail. By getting rid of the dead weight, we make Konoha stronger." Again. Naruto looked as Sakura got into the ready position again. He took a deep breath and waited. "Why are you hesitating? Attack," Shin commanded. Naruto spoke up, it was Sakura's turn to attack. "I need to defend as well. There is no waiting in training. If you are not on a mission or training, you are wasting time. En route, we do not waste our time on such things. Attack." Naruto attacked once more. He broke Sakura's defenses once more and threw her to the ground. He hesitated once more. "Attack," Shin commanded. "She is not defeated. Only knocked down." Naruto growled and was about to turn on Shin when Sakura swept his legs out from under him. He fell flat on his back, momentarily stunned. Sakura rolled into a somersault and brought both heels down on Naruto's chest. He coughed loudly as he could not breathe for a moment before Sakura struck again with an elbow just below his sternum. He swung a backhand into her face to get her off of him. She rolled with it so it did little damage as she quickly rose to her feet. Naruto rolled onto all fours when she kicked him in the ribs. He caught the foot with one arm against his body. He turned his head to look at Sakura. Sakura shifted her weight to her trapped leg and lifted her other foot to kick Naruto in the face. He let loose his grip on her foot as he rolled away. Both staggered to their feet as Naruto checked his nose for breakage. It was only bloody. He snorted in and spat out blood to one side. She settled into a stance and found her ankle hurting slightly, likely a twist from her last fall with Naruto holding it. "Continue," Shin said in his same monotone. "Come on, Naruto. Not going to let a girl beat you, are you?" Sakura taunted. Naruto and Sakura both attacked. A single bug crawled out of a sewer grate and took to the air. A short time later a patrol of Anbu stopped nearby. They searched a building before going to the next and on down the block. Roughly an hour after they left, a long line of rice-sized bugs marched in files down the grate. Yuigao was off duty that evening, so she made it a point to visit Hiro. She found Hiro talking to Kakashi. Both men got quiet once she entered the shop. "No need to stop on my account, boys," she commented. "We're all on the same side here." Hiro smiled and waved Yuigao over. "I was just telling Kakashi about the burglary I had the other night. He just got back into town from a long mission." "Yeah, a pair of desperate criminals I heard," Yuigao said with a chuckle. "I heard a rumor that they snuck past a pair of genin teams and Anbu seals on every door and window into Uzumaki's apartment," Hiro said. "That boy is as good as the gang said. How the hell did he not pass the academy, Kakashi? The exit exam is not geared towards someone having so much chakra that they overload a simple clone, plus certain people made sure he would not pass on his own merits," Kakashi replied. "I peeked in on him a few times since then. Getting proper training, he was a certain pass, but now I wonder what is going to happen." "Don't forget Pinky either, Kakashi," Yuigao growled out. "You failed her already." All she needed was a serious dose of reality, and she improved almost as fast as Uzumaki did under quality training. Both of them have potential written all over them. Kakashi looked stunned. "You're not serious, are you?" Yuigao smirked, completely serious. "I think Inu needs to go have a discussion with the primary about this as soon as possible. No tardiness either." Kakashi narrowed his lone eye. "She is very serious if she brings that into this. Even with Hiro a part of the gang and all, mentioning it in the open like that is dangerous." Kakashi muttered, "I'll let him know about it." The one-eyed left with a troubled look on his face. Hiro waited a few minutes before speaking. He wasn't in on the Hokage's plans, was he? No, Sarutobi-sama had intended to make Kakashi the kid sensei, along with Pinky and the Uchiha. He figured a team so much like his own genin squad might pull the scarecrow out of his mental funk. On duty, the man is a genius, but off duty, he's a mental cripple. After seeing what we found after the kid failed and everything with Root being dug up, the Hokage figured he should focus on digging out Root before something happened in Konoha. I also heard that Uchiha is not fitting in too well with his current team," Hiro chuckled. "A huge understatement there, Hiro. The kid is causing more problems than Uzumaki had with pranks. I have heard teething babies whine less than that primadonna. That team is so dysfunctional they are screwing up D ranks. That boy needs someone his own age to knock him on his butt. The only reason that team even has a C rank to qualify for the exams in a few weeks is that the Hokage wanted a quiet couple of weeks and sent them on a snipe hunt near the border with Wind Country looking for bandits." Hiro roared with laughter until Yuigao threatened to hit him. Sakura felt like she had been run over by a wagon. Even with Naruto's help she could barely stand as the pair was led to the showers. She did not even care that Naruto was right behind her as she pulled off the jumpsuit to wash. She just looked down at her body. The bruises were already forming. She could have gone easier, but she was doing what needed to be done. The taunts she had made to get Naruto to fight all out had hurt her physically once he had really gotten going. She just put her hands on the wall and let the water rain down over her head. Naruto had only glanced at Sakura to make sure she would not collapse. The bruises he saw on her legs and back made him wince. He did not even get a stir from seeing her naked. All he felt was guilt that he had beaten his only friend so badly. His own bruises were fading like they always had for him. In about an hour he would be recovered as if he had never fought. "Sakura-chan, I'm sorry," he said in a quiet voice. "Don't worry about it, Naruto. I hit you often enough in the past. Some payback is karma, eh?" she said just as quietly. "Besides, we're still on duty. No time for friends on duty, remember?" Naruto looked at the tile in front of him. "I don't think they're going to let us be off duty anymore, Sakura-chan," he said. Sakura didn't reply. She just nodded. Sarutobi glared at Kakashi as he was standing on the other side of his desk. He had been about to leave the office when Kakashi showed up. "Pat suggested that Inu have a talk with the primary, Hokage-sama," Kakashi said in a contrite voice. Sarutobi sat down and shook his head slowly, so much for a quiet evening to rest while other people make the needed preparations. He was not in the mood to deal with Kakashi right now, but he would be an asset in the next few days. Kakashi, I don't know if I can trust Inu right now. I need someone who is all there, not a burnout, he said in a slow deliberate voice. Kakashi's visible eye widened at what the Hokage had said. Sir, No, just listen to Kakashi. I wanted you to be a sensei to a team that even you would not turn down if you took the time to look underneath the underneath as you like to say. Haruno, Uchiha and Uzumaki were my original choices for your team. That was a deliberate choice on my part to help you. They would have been a mirror of Team Minato before your incident. Other circumstances forced me to change that decision. Kakashi seemed to shrink into himself at what the Hokage had said. His mind took in what the leader had said and saw the parallels, Naruto as Obito, Sakura as Rin and Sasuke as Kakashi. The Hokage was trying to give him a chance to redeem himself in his own eyes by not failing his team this time. But he had failed the team he had been given because he was not looking forward, just dwelling in the past. Without Naruto in the mix, he had not seen the similarities. So you understand a little now, Kakashi. Instead, something even I had not planned on has come about. While Inu's back was turned on Naruto, Danzo's minions were slowly poisoning his chances and making him an outcast. While he was under Inu's protection. Sarutobi finished with a shout. His father would be disappointed in you, Kakashi. Kakashi had no reply to the accusation because he knew it was true. Right now, Naruto and Sakura are in the hands of Danzo and his route. They are the bait to lead us to the nest of that traitor. By tomorrow evening, everything should be in place to rip it out completely. I have a special assignment for Inu to redeem himself, Kakashi. Kakashi looked up. During the raid, Inu's assignment will be to rescue and bring out his students, Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto. Sakura felt like she had just laid down when her cell door opened and she was told to get up by Shin. The second day of physical training was worse than the first. All of her bruises pained her and she could barely move. She struggled to get up and obey the gray-haired boy. A calloused hand slid into hers. She lifted her head to see it was Naruto helping her to her feet. She stretched slightly as the pair walked after Shin. The small eating area had another person in it today, a dark-haired boy with pale white skin. It looked like he had rarely been out in the sun. He looked up from his bowl of something without expression. Naruto pushed Sakura into a chair and went up to the serving area to return with 2 bowls of something brown. He slid one to Sakura along with a spoon. Even after a few meals like this, she could not even think of the goop as food. It had no taste and there was nothing to give it any. The only difference in it was that the color changed slightly each time. Tofu tastes good in comparison. In spite of her disgust, she began shoveling it into her mouth. Her hunger would not wait. What passed for food never seemed to fill her up. She was exhausted. She tried to focus past her sore muscles and bruises. She had gotten to sleep 3 times since coming to this place. None of them seemed to be for very long. She was getting used to simply doing what she was told. It felt worse than during remedial PT and later chakra training. They were starting to do something to her, but she didn't have the energy to resist. Naruto looked at Sakura eating almost mechanically. Her eyes told of her exhaustion, but he was not much better. He was hungry. He was tired, but he seemed to be finding the energy to keep going from somewhere. He was not getting better or worse off, just continuing to hold on at the same low point. Shin never showed any expression at them, but Naruto did notice that the gray-haired teen would keep working on Naruto after Sakura couldn't continue. When she couldn't go on, Shin made the girl simply stand at attention while Naruto continued with exercises. Root was trying to break them. Once the food was eaten, Shin indicated for them and the dark-haired boy to follow. Sarutobi called the clan leaders and all of his advisors together late in the afternoon. He needed to be a distraction on his own while his Anbu did the work. The upcoming Chunin exams was a good reason to gather them all together. The tower had many fewer people in it today. Several people had gotten sick during the morning and in the afternoon several more had begun vomiting. Sarutobi called for the meeting to be held in the Academy Room 301 where the first exam would be given. Once Sarutobi left, Anbu slipped into the tower and quietly took away about 24 people. Kakashi pulled out his old mask. The dog's face on it almost mocked him. It looked like it was on guard, but he knew he had not been that attentive when he last wore it. Inu had a good reputation once, and now he has a chance to reclaim it in the future. He just had to reach out and take it. The mask slid into place. Hiro got his people together. All the physically capable would watch the known exits of the underground tunnels route preferred to work out of. Blue Aardvark had known more than it had let on. They were all over Konoha and while technically retired, never quite gave up on being who they were. Bits of information always were passed between them and as a whole they passed it on to active duty Anbu members. Root had been a thorn to them since it had been officially disbanded but never dissolved. Now, it would be pulled out like the weed it was. Chapter 9. Return to the light. Naruto and Sakura faced the dark-haired boy together. So far he had beaten them both quite badly in sparring. Naruto was not certain, but this guy had to be at least level already, and Shin had called him just another trainee. The blonde helped the pink-haired girl to stand as he popped her dislocated finger back into place. Under his breath he talked to her, "Okay, I think I have a plan to get this guy at least once." Shin said, "It is a spar, right?" But he never said anything about rules. "We are using our best stuff on this guy and not getting anywhere separately. We need to work this together." Sakura could barely open one swollen eye after the sparring from today and was willing to try anything at this point to get a few shots in. "What are we doing? When you see me make a ram seal, close your eyes and wait for the flash. Then you take out his ability to breathe. I'm gonna beat on Shin too if he falls for it," Naruto said. Sakura nodded and moved off to Naruto's left. Naruto charged headlong at the dark-haired boy once more but pulled up at about 3 steps from him and focused his chakra and made a ram seal. Sakura ran up trailing and was ready for it. The chakra flash Naruto created lit the room bright enough to make Sakura's eyes hurt even when closed. The flash faded as she ran past and jumped at the dark-haired teen. She saw his hands up by his face and she grinned fiercely as her foot connected a sidekick with the boy's stomach. She was surprised however when the boy shattered and she was sprayed with ink. Sakura managed to roll as the resistance to her kick vanished. Naruto heard a sound to one side as the dark-haired boy was scribbling on a scroll. He followed with a hand sign and a new clone rose. "Damn it," Naruto thought. "He is one step ahead of us." Naruto really wanted some weapons at that point. He was getting tired of everything in this place. He wanted to sleep. He wanted some ramen. He was fed up with playing with these traitors. "Enough," Shin called out. "It is time to stop for now. Sakura, let me see your hand." Shin made a hand sign and his hand glowed green as he ran it over Sakura's finger. Some minor damage to a couple of ligaments. Hold still." Shin then focused as he held the palm over the wounded area. Naruto yelled, "You can heal, but you let Sakura-chan be in pain from all kinds of bruising for days now. What about her eyes?" Shin looked at Naruto but still never changed his expression. Healing simple bruising is a poor use of limited healing ability. The bruising reminds her that she should improve her Taijutsu ability. However, in the case of her finger, she would be limited should the damage heal incorrectly. Waiting 2 weeks for that to occur would be a waste of valuable resources. In this case it makes sense to provide healing for that area. Naruto grumbled his annoyance. He could not fathom why he was feeling so angry at everything the past day. Instead of dealing with Shin, he looked at the dark-haired boy. "Do you have a name? Heck, can you even speak?" The dark-haired boy looked to Shin who nodded briefly as he still focused on Sakura's finger. "I have no assigned name at this time," he said blankly. Naruto frowned. "I can't get your attention with a "hey you." I'll call you Gashi, artist, since you draw stuff for." Shin finished his healing on Sakura's finger and turned away. "Follow," he commanded. Sarutobi was discussing the upcoming Chunin exam with the clan elders and his advisors. He had always liked hearing other people's opinions and gave them weight in his own decision-making. He agreed that allowing as many possible teams of genin to participate in the upcoming exams would be a benefit to Konoha. Limiting it to just the elites like on foreign exams would never let Konoha find hidden diamonds in the rough. Some of the more revered clans grumbled at the idea, but they understood that a strong Konoha would make them look better in the long term. The meeting was interrupted when a noise of a body falling sounded outside the room. The Anbu at the door came to alert but recognized the ninja who came in the room. The Anbu who entered bowed to Sarutobi. "My apologies, Hokage-sama, a spy who was listening in on this meeting was just disposed of. Everything is secure." "Good, send out the alert, dear," Sarutobi replied. The people in the meeting frowned at hearing of a spy, but Sarutobi just raised a calming hand. "We must always be cautious of spies and people who would harm the Konoha that we all love. Isn't that right, Danzo?" he asked. The old crippled advisor nodded. "Konoha must always be protected, Hokage-sama." Sarutobi hardened his features and looked squarely at Danzo. "I take it that your failure at disbanding Root when ordered was your way of protecting Konoha, Danzo?" Danzo narrowed his sole eye on Sarutobi. "What are you referring to, Hokage-sama? Root was stopped after the last war at your order. It no longer exists. The time for games is over, Danzo. The spy the Anbu just eliminated was your man. The same man that has followed you to every meeting in the tower for the past year. Your spies working in the tower administration have been apprehended. Your facility is being raided as we speak. If you truly love Konoha, surrender and take your punishment." Danzo stood and glared at Sarutobi. "What kind of lies have been filtering into your senile old mind, Sarutobi?" he countered. "No lies, Danzo. Just that the time has come to put an end to your plans to turn Konoha into an aggressive power. To make sure that our children and grandchildren can have a chance to live in peace, Sarutobi said. Danzo sneered, peace, feh. The only way to live in peace is to be the strongest power in the world. You are letting Konoha grow weak with your soft ways, letting ninja retire instead of using them as the weapons they are. You talk of peace and allow lesser villages to grow strong. You allow enemy ninja to live and allow bandits to be turned over to daimyos for trial, instead of executing them as you should. That is the law that daimyo set forth and Konoha will obey it. We serve him, not the other way around. As far as my so-called softness, people should not live in fear of their rulers. Ninja who follow through loyalty will always be better than those that follow through fear. You never understood that love of family and friends makes a Konoha ninja strong and willing to do the hard things, to make the hard choices. Every Hokage has known this and done so. And now I have to as well. Danzo scoffed, what do you mean by a hard Joe? Danzo's question was cut off as his good arm was removed from his body by an Anbu Tanto. A hidden kunai clattered to the floor from Danzo's kimono. The assembled people were splattered with blood before the Anbu covered the wound. The choice of whether or not to let you live, Danzo, Sarutobi said quietly. The hawk flying over Konoha made the signal it was trained to make. In various areas of Konoha, teams sprung into action. Single entered shops in various parts of the village. They requested that the owner of the business come with them. The Hokage had questions for them regarding their business practices. The team led by entered the quartermaster. They took a certain man into custody. Once they had left, another man tried sneaking out the back door, only to be apprehended by Anbu as an accomplice. The hidden entrances to the root warren were flung open by Anbu who rushed into the lair. Trap set off by the forced opening of the portals killed or wounded more than a dozen Anbu and set off an alarm inside. Those dead Anbu melted into mud or water or simply dissipated into chakra smoke. The second wave entered into the lair. An Aburam clan member accompanied each team and pointed the way past false passages and dead ends. The alert was silenced after seconds, but it served its purpose. Some additional masked ninja appeared in the passage to stop the invaders, but a brief fight ensued. The Anbu were limited to hand-to-hand encounters with kunai due to the narrow passages, but this did not stop the root ninja. One rushed ahead to combat and block one team, while his comrade spat out a fire in his wake. The root ninja died along with the Anbu team. The user fled from the flaming bodies to wait and ambush another group. In another passage, the shouts of the dying team echoed. The Aburam in this squad paused and pointed to a spot in a shadowed alcove. Flung kunai peppered the shadow before a single root ninja collapsed out of it. With that ambush thwarted, the Aburam waved the team forward. Naruto and Sakura stopped eating, and both looked up as the alert sounded. Shin and the dark-haired boy Naruto had dubbed Gashi, both looked around before Shin stood. Followed, he commanded as he strode out of the room. Gashi followed immediately, and Sakura looked at Naruto who shrugged and got up to follow. The spies caught up to the root agents outside of the door. Shin looked both ways and listened before heading down a corridor Naruto and Sakura had never been down. What is going on? Naruto asked in a low voice. Shin was back at him in a moment with a drawn kunai to Naruto's neck. If you speak again, you will die. And if you understand, he hissed. Naruto nodded and felt the kunai leave his throat. Following, Shin ordered again and moved off quickly with the other three following. Inu was impatient as his team made their way deeper in the root labyrinth. He trusted Shibi's clansmen and followed along behind the guide. Every so often their guide would call his bugs back within his body as the team passed through certain areas. They finally led them to a room that looked like a shower. Aburam would not enter the shower room. This is where the primary scent trail leads to. A lesser scent trail leaves the room. Logic says it would be their gear. The scent does not leave the room otherwise. Kakashi silently moved into the room and lightly opened one tap. The barely noticeable scent of something was mixed with the water. He nodded. It was a means of avoiding the Aburam destruction bugs. He shut off the water and nicked his thumb on a kunai. 5 hand signs later, a number of ninja hounds sat in the room. Yo, said a pug. This place stinks. I know, Pakin. I need your noses. We need to find a pair of kids down here. They are doused in whatever scent this room is putting on them. The dogs all sniffed around the room and headed out the door. They growled and yipped at each other as they cast about for the most current scent. Finally Pakin spoke to Kakashi, the most recent one is here. They keep following the same trails. Kakashi nodded and turned to Aburam. Take the squad with you and follow your bug's original scent trail. Likely that should be an equipment room of some kind. Secure that and recover anything belonging to the targets. The group with Kakashi nodded and took off down a different hall. Kakashi turned and followed his hounds deeper into the labyrinth. They quickly found a training room and beyond that an eating area with several half-eaten bowls of something green. The hounds all avoided the bowls. The freshest trail led out a different doorway. Kakashi had the scent himself now and hurried after the missing youths. Naruto stumbled after Shin and Gashi and helped Sakura as they heard voices and battles in the corridors around them. The two older boys knew their way through this maze of passages, and Naruto didn't. Something serious was happening. They passed a single body wearing a mask, but not wearing normal Anbu clothes. He must be a root member, Naruto thought. Out of a side tunnel, a wounded Anbu operative appeared and grappled with Naruto. The man dropped a small gas pellet, which puffed out a cloud around Naruto and Sakura. The blonde could only grab onto the man in a reaction and try to not get carried to the floor. Sakura slumped against the wall for a moment before responding to the attack. Her leg came up between her enemy's legs at full force. There was a grunt before the man paused in his attack on Naruto. A second kick did the job as the man released Naruto. The blonde followed up by grabbing the head and holding it while he struck with a knee directly to the mask of the Anbu, where he estimated it was the chin. The mask shattered under the force of the blow and the man fell to the ground stunned. Naruto grunted in pain. Okay, that was not a good idea to do that. It just looked so cool in the movies, I figured it was a real move. Those masks are hard, he thought. He stumbled away from the fallen man and hurried after Shin and Gashi. The entire melee had taken under 10 seconds. Neither of them had even thought about it, just reacted. Shin led them deeper into the tunnels. Four ninja boiled up out of the ground into the alley. The masked root ninja quickly shed their armor and masks. Without the distinctive root garb, they could pass as ordinary ninja and clear the area to safety. The three men and one woman then quietly began to walk toward the marketplace when a fireball forced them back into the alley. A group of blue masked ninja wearing blue robes stood on the eaves above them. Surrender, root ninja. You cannot escape, one spoke in an authoritative voice. The woman pulled out a handful of kunai with exploding tags and activated them in the same motion. Before she could hurl them, she was struck by a half-dozen kunai herself. The activated tags fell to the ground and exploded. The buildings on both sides of the alley were heavily damaged by the blast. The four root ninja died. The blue masked ninja jumped down to render aid to the wounded civilians. It was leading what appeared to be a squad out one gate of Konoha when a swarm of bugs landed on the group. The ninja all screamed as their chakra was drained. The gate guards were shocked by this and went to aid the team until an Anbu motioned for them to wait. They are spies. The guards were scared and one stammered out, but their papers were legitimate. The Anbu only nodded, the papers likely were legitimate. However, the people were not. Bind them and do not let them escape. Someone will come for them shortly. The Anbu returned to hiding after that while the bugs retreated back into the trees. Another explosion rocked the market district. The ground under a shop collapsed as its hidden supports were destroyed. Several ninja leapt out of the hole and raced off in several directions past screaming civilians. A pair of Anbu followed as two others lay wounded. One woman was knocked out but was being tended to by her teammate as he wrapped a bandage over his own wound. The moving wounded Anbu waved off the healthy team members to pursue the enemy. They could only follow two of the escaping enemies. They split up and pursued. Inu made his way following the scent. Fear laced into the trail now as Pakin led the way. He saw wounded Anbu struggling to rise. He paused to help the man and the agent gasped out, I saw the blonde and pink-haired kids down here. I tried to gas them, but they took me by surprise after catching a good whiff of it. Watch out for her kicks cause she got a really good aim. Inu nodded, how long ago? Not even 2 minutes ago, the man gasped out in a cough. Kakashi continued on his mission. Now a moment of doubt crept into his mind. Had the teens gone over to the side of Root? The lone Root ninja crawled out of the tunnels and looked about with no expression. Danzo-sama must have fallen in his efforts to bring Konoha to glory. He stripped his clothing and doused himself with a bucket full of what looked like water. A vigorous scrub of his hair and a small bug fell out of the short strands. The man dried himself and put on civilian clothing. The young merchant would go back to his store and blend back into the population. His walk down the street was halted as a pair of men in blue robes appeared on either side of him. The Root man never noticed that it impacted his neck as darkness took him. The squad entered a hallway full of bolted rooms. Panicked voices sounded from within. The masked special forces peeked into the various rooms. A dozen children of various ages between 5 and 10 were rescued from confinement. The older children seemed much more sedate than the younger, showing they had gone through some sort of emotional training. The squad, originally with Kakashi, had only a single person to deal with as they secured the equipment room. From within a weapons pouch belonging to Naruto crawled a single Aburam destruction bug. It flew over to land on the Aburam and rested on the man's shoulder as it took in chakra. The man knew it was not one of his own colonies but allowed the small bug to feed. He dispersed his own bugs into the room and they quickly identified the personal property of the targets. The squad gathered the items and departed before sealing the room behind them. Sakura was in a haze now. She had just reacted when the masked man had attacked Naruto. She clung to the blonde as he led the pink-haired girl through the tunnels. The last of her strength was gone. She just wanted to eat, to get some sleep, to not have any more pain. She finally just closed her eyes and let herself slip away. Naruto suddenly found himself bearing the entire weight of his friend. He stopped to lift her up in his arms. Ahead of him Shin and Gashi stopped as well. "Leave her," Shin commanded. "The mission comes first. Our mission is to escape." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the gray-haired teen before him, not without Sakura-chan. Shin stepped closer. "You will be caught by the Anbu if you slow down. They will execute you for killing a Konoha ninja," he said in the same monotone. Naruto backed up step for step as Shin moved forward. He was tired and he could barely hold up Sakura. He had no weapons and no idea where under Konoha he was. The anger he felt kept gnawing at the back of his mind. He just decided to finally tell his taskmaster off. Shin felt the edge of worry appear in his mind for the first time he could recall. Naruto's eyes suddenly changed as the blonde stood straighter. The color changed from blue to red as he spoke in a voice laced with hatred. "I will not leave my friend behind. If I have to face death to protect her then I'll face death. Damn your mission and damn you. I am a ninja of Konohagakure no Sato and we do not leave our comrades behind like trash." The voice behind him spoke out, "Well said, Naruto. Please step aside so I may deal with these rude traitors." Naruto lost his focus as soon as he heard the voice. His eyes returned to their normal blue color as he turned his head to look. Shin darted forward at Naruto with a kunai poised to strike. Naruto swung around to put his back between the blade and Sakura, but a pug attacked Shin from a shadow. Naruto fell to the ground as Kakashi slid past him. The battle was as brief as it was violent. Shin could not defend himself with Pakin hanging on his arm. Kakashi stabbed a gray-haired boy in each shoulder, then kicked the teen's feet out from under him. Shin fell and took a blow to the temple before he could even hit the ground. Kakashi faced Gashi next. The dark-haired boy had only stood while Kakashi and Shin fought. "Surrender and you will be allowed to live," Kakashi said. Gashi looked at Kakashi then at Shin as if needing orders. Kakashi took control of the situation by closing the gap and knocking out the unresisting teen. He pulled out some bits of wire to bind both root ninja. Naruto was slightly shaking Sakura trying to wake her. She was still breathing so he was not very worried. He felt drained and wanted to collapse even more than ever. He lay her down on the ground and shakily stood back up as he kept feeling weaker. Kakashi turned to see the blonde-haired boy tending to his friend. "Time to go, Naruto. Time to get you back home." Naruto narrowed his eyes and blinked trying to clear up his tunnel vision. He kept trying to remember. He had seen this Anbu before. "Inu. You used to carry me home. When I always get lost in Konoha. A long time ago." The dog, masked by Kakashi, nodded, "So you do remember that, Naruto. Good. The Hokage was worried and sent me to get the pair of you out of here." Naruto nodded slowly as his eyes were closing. "So where are we going now, Inu?" Kakashi caught the blonde as he collapsed and he laid the boy next to Sakura. "Back into the light, Naruto. All three of us." Naruto woke suddenly and sat up in the hospital bed. He looked side to side and his eyes focused on the flash of pink he saw in the next bed. Sakura lay sleeping on the bed next to him. He actually felt better than he had in weeks. His stomach felt a bit off, but other than that he was good. He wasn't even angry anymore. The wires taped to his head and chest were the first things he removed as he glanced about the room. The door opening quietly put him on alert. A nurse came in with a smile on her face. He could see a guard outside the room before it closed. The nurse stopped at the foot of the bed. "You're awake a lot sooner than expected, Uzumaki-san," she said. "With what you went through the past week we thought you would be out at least another day." Naruto looked at her warily. "What do you mean? Where am I?" "In the hospital of course," she said with a smile. "You and Haruno-san were in bad shape when the Anbu brought you in. If you would excuse me, I need to send word to Hokage-sama that you have awakened." Naruto was confused. Yeah, sure." Once the nurse had left, Naruto lay back to think. The past few days were a blur in his memory. They had an almost dreamlike quality to them. He recalled Shin, Gashi, the tunnels, and finally Inu. His guilt over hurting Sakura during the sparring returned. He just sat in silence as the time passed. He seemed bursting with energy and it took all of the self-discipline he had learned the past 6 months to not get up and run around. The door opened once more to admit an old man, the Hokage. The smile on his face after so long was like a warm sun after a cold winter's day for the boy. "Hey, old man," he said softly. The Hokage stopped at the foot of his bed, still smiling. "I am glad you're recovering so fast, Naruto. It seems Sakura is getting along better as well. You both had us worried when you arrived. Both of you were suffering from chakra exhaustion." Naruto looked at him confused. Sir, old man, how long have we been here?" 2 days already. The destruction of Root went well. We got their base and most of their key people and ninja. Without you being taken to their headquarters, we would never have found it in that maze they built down there. I have teams still down there mapping it out for missing areas before we fill it in. I think we can call your mission completed. Most? Naruto wondered. Sarutobi smiled. I had Aburame Shibi plant a few of his clan's destruction bugs on each of you. Once you reached the base, some left you and returned down the back trail and found ways out that avoided the defenses Root had installed against them. Then more went into the base and marked every person in there. This allowed us to capture some that had been there but left. I assume some members of Root have escaped by the simple fact that they had not gone to the base during the time the bugs were settling on everyone. Bugs? Said a confused Sakura in a soft voice. Sakura-chan. You're awake, cried out an excited Naruto. Yeah, she grumped. Turned down the volume. Sakura was obviously not a morning person. Naruto ducked his head slightly, sorry. The Hokage chuckled. As I was saying, the Aburame bugs got carried into the base by the pair of you and sent back several as guides to the main colony. They infiltrated the Root Warren and attacked every person there. We were able to identify several who had left by the time our raid occurred. Naruto grinned, so we did good, old man. Sakura threw a pillow at his head. Show the Hokage some respect, Naruto, she said. The teens made faces at one another for a minute before a laughing Sarutobi broke in. Alright, settle down. There are a few downsides that need to be dealt with now. Sakura and Naruto both stopped and looked at their leader. First of all, the doctor in charge of you both had needed to pump your stomachs and for lack of a better non-medical term, clean out your insides to get rid of whatever Root had been feeding you both. It was laced with a chakra inhibitor and some drugs that we have not fully analyzed yet. You both need to spend a few more days in the hospital to make sure they are out of your systems. Sarutobi looked at Sakura, you young lady have a few more days of healing before all of your bruising is gone. I hope you can explain why you are so beaten up. Sakura looked nervous and Naruto hung his head in shame. It was me, sir, he said in a low voice. They were making us spar full contact as training. If we held back, they would threaten us with death. My bruises just healed faster than Sakura-chan's did. Sarutobi nodded and frowned. I am not pleased that you both had to go through that, but I can understand the need for you doing what needed to be done. Naruto smiled some at that, just watch out for those kicks of hers if you ever spar with her, old man. She is mean to them. Sarutobi nodded as Sakura blushed this time. Well, now the real issue to be dealt with. During your mission there was a large amount of intentional disinformation passed around regarding both of you. The rumor that you both attacked the pair of instructors was widely spread and many do not believe that it was falsified. Naruto, many added that to the undeserved reputation of yours. Naruto nodded solemnly. Either way, both of you are going to have some trouble with certain sectors of the civilian population for some time after this. The ninja of Konoha were informed that you both were assigned the blame on my direct orders and that neither of you did the actual deed. Word that an enemy force was being built from within Konoha and that the pair of you were being used as bait to locate it was also given out. Sadly, that may lead to few other genin trusting you closely for some time as well. I felt you both should know that right away because it might come up before you leave the hospital. Sakura sighed at hearing that. I'll save the rest of the official business for when you both get out of here. Now, since you both are up, I think you are both due some visitors. A number of people have been hoping to see you both, Sarutobi said. The aged leader went to the door and opened it before motioning to some people outside. Sakura's mother came in and hugged the teen. I was so worried about you, sweetheart. When you vanished like that, the Hokage came to see that you were on a secret mission. The rumors were awful. He told me they were all eyes and a cover story, but I still worried. Naruto watched the red-haired woman talk non-stop at Sakura after that while he just sat. Then he noticed a familiar face come in. "He and Naruto," Iruka said. Naruto grinned as Iruka playfully bonked him on the head and the pair caught up on the recent events. 2 days later, Naruto and Sakura were released from the hospital. The Anbu had returned the clothing recovered from the Root equipment room, but it held onto the rest of Naruto's weapons and scrolls. They gave him a receipt to claim it later instead. The normal attitude the Anbu operative would display was different to the pair and seemed to convey a bit of respect. The letter from Hero was also included inviting them to come by and get some spares if they needed it, at a discount of course. The pair had received visits from Team 10, but only a few members from their remedial class. They had never been well liked there so it did not bother them. AM had come in and brought them ramen once. Sakura felt strangely upset when the waitress had given Naruto a kiss on the cheek. At their release, they were escorted to the Hokage Tower. Naruto noticed a few openly glaring stares, but also a few smiles in his direction. Sakura was not really prepared for the negative reaction, but tried to not let it bother her. The training they both had over the previous months let her maintain a calm expression, even if she was troubled inside. The days of both being unnoticed in their military clothing were over. One pair of eyes focused on the passing group. The thought behind them was malevolent, but the face never changed. A short wait found them standing before the Hokage. The old leader stood and walked around his desk. He held out a ninja headband to each of them. The new metal gleamed in the light. The teens both smiled and took them. They quickly placed them on their foreheads and bowed to their Hokage. Sarutobi pointed them to the couch and motioned for them to sit. He sat in a chair adjacent to it. Now, there is a lot to tell both of you and a few decisions to be made. First is what to do with the pair of you. I have already assigned you both to a sensei, but I have been asked by a half-dozen others to consider them for the position. The ones asking include Cad and the man hero from the clothing store. Those two are the biggest surprise since neither of those people has shown any inclination to be a teacher. However, I am going to go with a choice I made 7 months ago when I was forming teams. Sakura narrowed her eyes slightly at that as the Hokage continued. I am going to place the pair of you with Hada Kakashi. I know he failed you, Sakura, but that team was not the one I had originally intended. Believe it or not, Naruto was supposed to be a part of your team with Uchiha Sasuke. The third member of your team will depend on the outcome of the Chunin exams in 2 weeks. My main concern right now is where to place you. The elite program is where I would normally place both of you, but your mission has left you both with some negative publicity that many daimyos try to avoid when hiring elites. Also, by the same token, neither of you would fit well into the standard military program. You both are showing potential well above that skill level. We need to find a place for you, but the current organizational structure makes it difficult. So I needed to find something outside the current structure. After much thought, I decided to keep doing what I asked of both of you once already. I have decided you will be part of a team that answers directly to the Hokage, much like a junior version of Anbu. Officially, you will be counted among the elites, but your mission assignments will be less public and more military or Black Ops related ones. You will not be getting those ghastly public relations D rank missions the rest of the elites get as genin. You would be getting more escort style missions. You will likely be placed into situations that fall into the gray area when a normal elite team might not be the best choice and an Anbu team would be overkill. A shadow elite. Naruto looked over at Sakura and back at the Hokage. What about our future, old man? People are all talking about the Chunin exams and how that is the best way for a genin to advance in rank. If we are not a part of that, how will we get promoted? Sarutobi smiled at the boy. Your promotion would be decided by me alone when you warrant it. You both have the right attitude but lack the practical experience right now. Katz will also be checking up on your training as it progresses. She will also help it along in some areas, especially with Sakura. Naruto looked happy while Sakura thought for a few seconds before speaking. Sir, about Kakashi-san, will he be like he was at that time as my instructor? I mean he was 3 hours late that one time I took his test. I don't know if that was part of it, but I remember in the academy, Iruka-sensei was saying that being on time was a part of being a ninja. Sarutobi chuckled, he will be on time for anything team-related, Sakura. He has had a few problems in his past that he is still dealing with, but I have stressed to him that he will not be having his lateness tolerated. Will it be just the 3 of us then? Naruto asked. That depends on the Chunin exams, Naruto, the Hokage replied. It depends on how the last potential member does during it. Chapter 10. Testing and more testing. Sakura grinned as she laid back on the roof of Naruto's building. Naruto had the entire building to himself and she meant to take full advantage of that. A cooler of sodas lay next to the lounge chair and her bikini was as close to indecent as she dared. The best thing about the location was the height of the building and that it was far from the mountain, so peepers would not get much of a view. Not that there was much to see. She idly thought, but it was the principle of the thing. It had been a week since the extermination of Root. Her first attempt to sunbathe at the local pool had been met with mixed reaction. Too many people had been wary or downright hostile to her the few minutes she had been there. The Sandame's cover story to get Root to pick up Naruto and her had worked a little too well. Lots of civilians and low-ranking ninja actually thought she was dangerous. Sure, she had gone through an intense 6-month course that brought her to the best physical shape of her life. Her chakra was many times what it had been in the academy and her control was nearly perfect. Her taijutsu and hand weapon skills were ranked at, but her practical experience was nearly 0. Her ninjutsu was only genin level, but that was due to the basic nature of what she had been taught. Drop her anywhere with a chance to survive and she would survive. The academy had made low-level warriors out of the elite-level genin they put out. The remedial training had polished that and made her into a soldier on top of it. Even the brief root training had taught her a lot about how much punishment she could handle physically and still keep going. But right now it was plain and simple Sakura time. Months of full-cover uniforms and being in classroom 6 days a week had taken its toll on her tan. Her lower face and hands were about the only part of her body that wasn't pale right now. The Hokage had given her and Naruto a week off and she intended to make the most of it. After the initial problem with the pool, she came over here to see what her teammate was doing with his time off. Going into the building through the open front door had been a shock. The only occupant had been Naruto. In fact, only a dozen or so people lived within 2 blocks of this building. That led to her dragging a lounge chair and a cooler over here to get the sun she wanted. Naruto had not complained too much, but his disagreement was obvious. She told him she wouldn't go into his apartment without his permission, but she was going to make use of his private roof. Naruto had tried to balk, but she hugged him from behind and whispered in his ear, "Please Naruto-kun," in a small voice. He just said okay in a choked voice and ran into his bedroom. She would have apologized for that, but he had been avoiding her for a couple of days now. Something tickled the edge of her perception, and she had rolled off the lounge and gotten into a ready stance in a single motion. A voice called out, "Not bad. I was only there for a few seconds before you noticed me." Sakura turned her head to see Kat sitting on the edge of the roof. Sakura relaxed some and sat back down on the lounge chair. The Anbu spoke up, "Since Kakashi is busy with something else, the boss has asked if you and Naruto are willing to do a simple mission for a few hours. You get paid D-rank money to go spar with another genin team, since it was a request on your day off and all." The pink-haired girl thought about it for a few seconds. "I'm up for it, Naruto is," she replied. "I was getting bored just laying around by myself." "He hasn't seen you dressed like that, has he? I mean if he sees you dressed like that, he is going to pass out from blood loss. That bikini is smaller than the bra and panties you had on that evening in the classroom." Sakura giggled softly. In spite of all her training, she was still a young teenage girl deep in the middle of puberty. Then she glanced at the sun to guess at the time. He should be over at the obstacle course about now. He still insists on beating the record time on that thing. His trouble isn't the time, it's the penalty seconds he gets doing it. Kat nodded. She had seen the boy missing the record almost daily on her observation assignment. His time would come in just under the record, only to see a few seconds tacked on for not completing every obstacle cleanly. He was not willing to give up those few seconds of speed needed to do it all correctly and come up with the same total score. One way or the other he would learn eventually or get good enough to not get the penalty. Kat also noted Sakura avoiding the question she asked about Naruto seeing her. Something had flashed in the girl's eyes that would need discussing later on. "I'll run home and grab my equipment. Where are we supposed to meet?" "Head over to the Hokage's office. He should have enough gear since it will be just a sparring session," Kat replied, and then she vanished in a swirl of leaves. Sakura grabbed her clothes and cooler and headed for the stairs. Naruto was sweating as he eyed his nemesis. The genin level obstacle course was mocking him once again. The person in charge of it was waving Naruto off because a team needed to use the facility. Once again he had failed to break the record. 4 penalty seconds had raised his finish time over the record once more. He hung his head as he stomped over to the staging area to reclaim his gear. "Rough day at the office." A voice called out. Naruto looked to see Kat waiting next to his equipment. He wondered what was wrong because the old man had given him and Sakura a week off after they took his offer. "The boss asked me to deliver a message since Kakashi is out of the village on a mission. Another team has requested you and Sakura for a sparring session. Since it was on a day off he gave you, it would get you D-rank pay. Sakura already accepted on the proviso that you are up for it." Naruto perked up at spar. He agreed with no further prodding. Sarutobi looked over the desk at his 2 newest operatives. Without their head coverings, the pair looked like a normal genin. Both had apparently gone shopping once more, since neither wanted to be wearing the old uniforms from their remedial training classes. The single outfit each had gotten from Hero's shop had been recovered along with their personal gear from the root equipment room. Neither however seemed inclined to use it. Naruto had gone to wear a charcoal gray version of his old orange jumpsuit. The only noticeable difference was the neckline was turtleneck instead of wide open. He wore weapons stashed in various accessible points and stood relaxed but alert. Sakura switched to black capri-length stretch pants and a slightly loose shirt. An equipment belt was slung around her waist and a kunai pouch strapped to her leg. Fingerless gloves with padded knuckles covered her hands. Her high-top ninja sandals were actually men's sandals in her size. She seemed to like the more heavy-duty construction, since a lot of her taijutsu fighting style included a lot of kicks. The ankle supports also had beaded metal plates on sides. Sarutobi could see Kat's hand in her outfit as it was more like one an Anbu female would pick. If the pink-haired girl had chest armor and a mask she could pass as an operative to an inexperienced genin or civilian. It seems Kat is finding a protege in young Sakura. It might do the girl some good. The aged leader spoke up, "Team Asuma has asked for a sparring match with your team. It seems my son wants his team to enter the Chunin exams and he wanted to see how his team does facing a completely unknown team. He asked for you too because he has been curious about you since running into you both that day on the street. I also wanted to have some idea of how you would do in a fight." Naruto grinned, so it will be a 2-on-3 fight. Yes, Asuma has some idea of what you both can do, and judging by Kat's reports and the bruising you put on each other during your route mission, you both are capable of handling his team easily, Sarutobi said with a small smile. The pair walked over to the training areas along the streets. Many active and retired ninja nodded in greeting to the pair, while civilians looked nervous. Both were amazed at how fast they had developed a reputation. Naruto was used to the glares, but the smiles and respect from other ninja was new. Sakura was saddened by the nervous looks, but smiled at everyone who greeted her. Sakura did notice that Naruto had nearly caught up to her in height now. She was stuck at just under 5 feet tall for months now. Naruto seemed to have hit a small growth spurt due to the better diet the remedial classes had provided during lunch. At the training fields, they found Team 10 and Asuma waiting for them. Shikamaru was already sizing up the pair. They realized quickly he was the most dangerous one on the other team. They had learned of things to look for, and his eyes were too observant. Ino perked up seeing the pair approach. She had been after Asuma to set this up ever since that night at the restaurant. There was no way that forehead could have gotten that good since they graduated the academy. Sakura had been washed back while she had been kept in the elites and gone on a lot of official missions, even some C-rank ones. She watched the pair stroll across the field like they did not have a care in the world. Bah, lambs to the slaughter, she thought. Choji just munched his chips as he watched Naruto and Sakura approach. His father had talked to him after the whole rude incident in town. He mentioned that Choji should never disrespect either of the pair. They had gone on a high-ranked mission with no backup with a strong chance of dying and had gone into it with open eyes. The boy chewed more slowly as he had heard respect in his father's voice when Choji had thought of scoffing at them for failing out of elite. Someone his father respected was worth paying attention to. He would be careful today. Shikamaru was sizing up every movement that Sakura and Naruto made as they walked over. The pair seemed too relaxed. They had been invited to a spar, but Shikamaru knew it would be more than that. Ino had been badgering Asuma for weeks. They both looked professional and carried themselves more like her than Genin. When they were close enough, he could see their eyes. They were dangerous eyes and had been evaluating his team the entire time. Naruto's eyes focused directly on his own, and the blonde boy gave a small nod. Naruto knew he was being sized up. Shikamaru suppressed a shudder and turned to Ino and Choji. "Guys, this is not going to be easy. I think Asuma-sensei was right when he said they could take us out," he said in a low voice to his teammates. Choji just grunted and nodded slightly while Ino looked at him and just said, as if. Choji looked at the blonde girl. "Ino, my father told me to give them respect. That should tell you something." Ino looked shocked. Choza was a classic Akimichi in that he respected strength of body and character. For a pair of genin to have that from him was something she did not expect. She just nodded slowly after Choji spoke and decided to not say anything after that. She remembered some of the things that Asuma had said that night about the legions and how Sakura had faced being sent to that without flinching. Ino knew she would have been whining like a 3-year-old if she had to face that. Asuma greeted the incoming pair and the genin all greeted each other. Ino just said Sakura in a normal tone, but Sakura picked up on that Ino was intimidated by the fact the blonde did not insult the pink-haired girl. Sakura bowed and spoke to Asuma. "Hokage-sama said you requested a spar with our team. We are still short people, but we will give it our best effort. Are there any specific rules you require?" Asuma smiled at the politeness. "Just no one tries to cripple the other side." Naruto looked at Choji then back to Asuma, "Full contact." Asuma chuckled, "No lasting wounds. Bruising is fine." Naruto nodded. Ino was again shocked and barely kept her mouth from falling open. How were Naruto and Sakura being so cool about this? They were bantering with sensei like they were discussing groceries. He was not even trying to cow them like he did to their team when giving instructions. He was speaking to them like professionals. Shikamaru pulled the team back from their teacher and opponents. "We need some space before this thing starts," he hissed. He watched Naruto and Sakura turn to be able to see each other out of the corner of their eyes, and both raised a hand to hide their mouths from view. Choji glanced at Shikamaru as they backed away, dragging Ino. "What is the plan?" he asked. Shikamaru needed more information to come up with something. He needed to see them fighting some to find weaknesses. "Choji, you engage in hand-to-hand. You'll have to absorb some damage to give me an idea of how to defeat them. Sorry to use you like that, but these two are total strangers to us now. Ino, you engage from a distance with throwing weapons. I'll see if I can catch them by surprise with my shadows." Choji just nodded. He knew that was a large part of his job on this team. They were primarily an intelligence and support team and not meant to engage in heavy combat. But the Akimichi were well suited to heavy combat and when used in defensive situations were very difficult to beat. Their size allowed them to take a few hits that would disable most ninja. Asuma leaned back on a tree and watched for a minute before he would call start. He had a good idea of the training Naruto and Sakura had gone through. He had a few friends years ago go through remedial and later work their way onto Anbu. They were all dead now. The few times he had thought he was all that and sparred with them, they had handed him his butt. They had convinced him to start using his trench knives as more than a simple tool. His new seriousness in the military basics had led to his being invited into the 12 Ninja Guardians, at the same time Anbu had invited him to join. He took the position with the Guardians, but also accepted the bear mask that Anbu offered and still kept it in reserve to use it for the Hokage when needed. He wanted his team to learn that lesson before their first Chunin exam. They had potential to be great, but they still thought they were invincible. He needed to break them of that idea, and using someone they saw as a peer would be the best way to achieve that end. The fact that Ino looked down on Sakura right now was more of a blessing because the girl needed to wake up more than Choji or Shikamaru. Asuma called out, "Fight until one side is disabled. If I call someone out, you are out. Round 1, begin." Naruto ran directly at the charging Choji while Sakura shadowed her teammate. Choji prepared for a collision but was surprised when Naruto leapt to the side and he practically walked into a kick in the face from Sakura. The hefty boy fell over as Sakura pushed off him to race at Shikamaru. The pink-haired girl threw a kunai with a smoking tag at the ground next to the lazy genius. Shikamaru leapt off to one side away from the blade. He realized his mistake in midair as Naruto tackled him as he landed. The blonde's shoulder drove him into the ground and knocked the wind out of him. Sakura dodged a hail of shuriken from Ino as the blonde kept backing away from her one-time friend. The fight was not supposed to be like this, Ino thought. We were supposed to win. I made elite, not her. Sakura closed when Ino noticed Naruto moving to one side of the blonde and stopped looking at Sakura. A fast punch to the gut stole Ino's breath and the metallic sound of a kunai being drawn was followed by the cold touch of it on her neck. Asuma breathed a light whistle. It had taken Naruto and Sakura less than 30 seconds to dismantle his team. All three would have been dead if it had been a real life and death battle. The sound of a firecracker went off as the tag on the kunai sounded. Sakura walked over to pick it up from the ground, then held out a hand to Shikamaru. The lazy ninja took it and was helped up. Naruto had already gone to Choji and was checking on the large boy's bloody nose. Ino just remained on her knees with her head in the same position it had been when Sakura had laid the kunai on her neck. Everyone else came up to her while she remained still. Sakura knelt next to the blonde and gently spoke to her, "Ino, you're alright." Ino looked at Sakura with tears in her eyes. "No, I'm not. I thought we were so great. Then you come in and beat us like we just started the academy. How?" Sakura smiled gently at her old friend. "A lot of sweat, a lot of bruises and a lot of times being in that very position you are in right now. But the best thing about training is you can die as many times as it takes to learn how not to." Sakura stood and held out her hand. Ino reached out and took it and pulled Sakura into a hug when she had stood. "I missed you, forehead." "Same here, piggy," Sakura replied. Asuma walked up to the one-time classmate, now Team 10, "What did you do wrong in that one?" At night Sarutobi was strolling home and saw Asuma waiting outside the clan compound. "How did it go today, Asuma?" the Hokage asked. Asuma chuckled, "About how I expected it to go. My team beat 4 out of 5 spars. The 5th was a draw, but I think your team threw that one. You know something, it might be a good idea to run future academy classes through that remedial style training before making them genin. Convince the clans and I'll authorize it. They like the current system. Only the fact that I insist on at least half the academy being made of non-clan students is the only reason the elite is not more unbalanced than it is now." "So how did my team do?" Sarutobi asked. "They were good, Pop. They were confident. They never fell for the same trick twice and most importantly, they were humble about it when they won. I hate to admit it, but my team had that I am part of a clan, so I am better than you attitude. Naruto and Sakura just beat that out of them today. It was exactly what I wanted," Asuma finished with a laugh. "I seem to recall a certain son of a Hokage that had that same attitude once," Sarutobi smirked. Asuma nodded. "And I had it beaten out of me the exact same way. I really should thank the Hokage for setting me up for that beating, but somehow I think he knows already." Sarutobi nodded sagely and gestured Asuma inside, "You have got to hear what your nephew tried to pull today." Genin from many villages filed into the academy room 301. Team 10 ran into Team 8 and they stood together against the pressure of all the other genin in the room. The tense atmosphere in the room was made worse when the proctor, Marino Ibiki, arrived with a dozen and a burst of chakra smoke. The genin were sent racing to their seats and the testing began. Within minutes, cheaters were being called out and dismissed from the test with their teams. "Number 42, you fail," came a cry. "Number 101 and 17 go with him." This brought out a loud roar of anger from Uchiha Sasuke as he was thrown out along with his cheating teammate. Naruto watched as Midorishi Anko led 48 genin towards the forest of death. The boy was doing sit-ups while he hung under a branch by his feet holding on with chakra. He saw Team 10 and Team 8 in the group and whispered, "Good luck guys." Naruto met Sakura and Kakashi for a brief mission to the border to pick up traffic reports. They would travel 1 day to the border, 2 days along it to visit various stations, and site verify that each team was who they were supposed to be, and 1 day to return to Konoha. Kakashi viewed it as busy work so that the Hokage could deal with the second phase of the Chunin exams, but for Naruto and Sakura, it was an adventure. "Come on, Kakashi-sensei. This is our first time past the walls. It's exciting." Naruto cried out. Sakura chuckled at her friend's antics, but she was excited as well. Technically the mission was C-rank because it left the village. She didn't care about that because it was another actual mission. It got them away from the stares and glares the civilians kept giving her. At least her mother wasn't suffering from Sakura's newfound reputation. Her mom had lost her job when the plan to infiltrate Root had begun. However, after the destruction of it, a different employer called her mom in for a better job. Sakura knew it had something to do with Hiro and some of the mysterious blue mask ninja people had mentioned, but she couldn't prove it. She did not push the issue either way. The pink-haired girl had to admit that long-distance tree running was an exciting thing at first, but once you got used to it, it got dull quickly. Kakashi was pleased with the time he felt ashamed that he had not seen that before failing the team. On the other hand, Naruto was still an enigma to the. Kakashi knew who the boy was and had helped keep him safe years ago. He knew the boy had a lot of issues still, but the last 6 months had changed the blonde as well. He was calmer and much more focused. The focus brought his intelligence out more as he had been taught to take the time to think before acting. The boy was still loud and brash at times, but Kakashi realized that was for emotional self-protection. Once outside the village and with people he knew he could trust, the loud boy faded and the quiet one emerged. He was not moody or sullen, just quiet. It was as if the boy knew he did not need to prove anything to either Sakura or Kakashi. Sakura had earned that trust recently, and Kakashi had it for years. One other thing that worried him was how close the pair seemed. There was something underneath going on with them he had no part of. He recognized it as something he felt with a few of his old Anbu teammates who had survived a terrible battle alongside him. Something developed down en route with them, but neither one was talking about it, something more than friendship, but less than romance. Kakashi pulled himself out of his thoughts just in time to avoid leaping into a tree trunk. He chuckled at himself and focused back on the mission. The rest of the mission went as planned. They got to see the border stations and get a look at some other ninja who had not heard of the Root incident yet. The border guards were military ninja, and they recognized both Naruto and Sakura as one of their own. The fact that they were working under one of the most famous elites boosted how many of them felt about their own potential for the future. After 4 days, the tired and dirty trio returned to Konoha and reported into the Hokage. The mission report was easy enough. They simply turned over the traffic reports and informed the Hokage that all the people who should have been at the locations were there. The Hokage was looking haggard as he dismissed them, so they just left without asking how the second test of the Chunin exams went. Sakura hurried over to Ino's house to get the latest word on that. She even invited Naruto to come along. But when they arrived at the flower shop, they found it closed. An elderly neighbor told them that Ino was in the hospital. The pair took to the roofs of Konoha and ran all the way there. The waiting room in the hospital was packed with people. It seems this Chunin exam has been a bloody one. Sakura spotted the blonde hair of Ino's mom and walked over to her. The flower shop owner saw the pink hair of Sakura and pulled her daughter's once again friend into a hug. Sakura was confused but hugged back. "What's wrong?" Sakura asked. "I just got back from an out-of-town mission and went to the shop, but it was closed." Ino's mom wiped her eyes and looked Sakura in the eye. "Ino got hurt during the tests. Shikamaru and Choji told me most of it, but I am sure they left some things out. Her team made it past the test and were taken to an arena because Choji was saying something about too many people finishing. She had to fight in a solo match against a boy from the sand village. He could manipulate sand and wrapped her in it. Ino tried to use a family mincet on him instead of surrendering. Shikamaru said she just screamed and has not woken up since. She is catatonic right now. Inoichi and a few cousins are trying to help her, but they haven't been able to do much." Sakura was shocked. Naruto looked at all the people in the waiting area. Many different clans were represented. Nara was sitting staring at the ceiling. A Hyuga sat stoically apart from the rest. And Inyazuka sat with a trio of dogs. Abiram stood off in the corner. It did not take a genius to know something bad had happened. Naruto noticed Choji coming out of the bathroom with a few bandages on. He walked over to Choji. "Hey Choji. I just got back from a mission. What happened?" Choji looked at Naruto for a moment before nodding. It was as if he had to think about what Naruto had said before he could respond. It was horrible, Naruto. 15 people, 5 teams made it through the second stage of the exam. The Hokage gave a little talk and we ended up having to fight an elimination round before we could move into the finals. Ino got matched up against a Redeed from Suna. He was going to crush her with sand. He kept asking, she used her mind on him even while Shikamaru was telling her to give up. I saw her smirk appear on the boy's face for a moment before both of them screamed. The boy collapsed and Ino was just. She ended up on the ground just staring out straight and twitching. Both got disqualified. Neither one has woken up yet. The Yamanakas will not even try to work on the Suna boy after trying to get into Ino's mind. One muttered Shukaku and almost spat at the boy after looking into one's head. Naruto was saddened. He never knew Ino that well, but she had never been mean to him. Well, outside of being a Sasuke fangirl kind of mean. He looked around the room once more. Choji, that explains what your team's family is doing here. Why are teammates' clans here? Choji looked down at his feet. They never finished the second part of the exam. They got ambushed by a foreign heavy combat team who were wearing stolen leaf headbands. The foreigners used lightning so people think they might have been from Cloud, but no one can prove that. Kiba said they zapped Shino with a lightning strike that freed most of his destruction bugs and nearly killed him. They jumped Kiba next and he ended up taking a hit in place of Akamaru. The attack would have killed the pup but it broke both of Kiba's arms instead. Then the team went after Hinata. Choji stopped and shuddered. Kiba said something happened to Hinata. You know how she has always been this shy, quiet girl, right? Well, Kiba got a look at her face as she attacked them. He said it was like she was a completely different person. Her hands were literally glowing with chakra as she tore that team to pieces. I mean, parts were scattered as far as 20 yards away. But the last one died after he managed to impale her on his sword. All 3 are in intensive care right now, but the medics say all should recover. Naruto was shocked. The idea that a gentle Hinata could lose control like that was easy for him to understand. She had so few people as kind to her as her teammates that she would overcome her shyness to save them. So if they are going to recover, why the vigil and evil looks between the members of their clans? Choji looked down, then back into Naruto's eyes. The Hyuga elders were furious at the fact Hinata got hurt like she did, even though it was to protect her team instead of ensuring her own safety. One said outright she makes the clan look weak. They were demanding Hiashi put Hinata into the branch family and brand her with their seal. Hiashi has been reluctant to do that to either of his daughters. The Inuzuka and Aburam both claimed blood debt on Hinata and said that if the Hyuga even attempted it, they would not leave a single other main branch Hyuga alive. Both clans have formally requested permission to adopt Hinata away from the Hyuga to keep that damned slavery seal off her forehead. Naruto was quiet about that. He knew nothing about the Hyuga other than Hinata was supposed to be the heir. He would have to find out more and soon. No wonder the old man looked so worn out. How are you doing, Choji? He asked. Choji looked down at his bandages. A few bumps and bruises. I made it into the finals next month. I had to fight a girl from Suna who used a giant fan and a lot of wind techniques. She was really good, but she was distracted by that red-haired boy not waking up. I wouldn't have won otherwise even though I was not doing so well because of Ino, he said. Wow, Choji, good for you. Who else made it? Naruto asked. Besides me, Shikamaru, Hinata's cousin Niji and the guy's whole team, a guy from Suna who uses puppets and 2 guys from the New Sound Village. They cut off the preliminaries when only 8 people were left. The girl on Niji's team, Tenten and one of the sound guys had their fight postponed, so they started things off in the big tournament. The only person not to fight was the crazy spandex kid with the eyebrows you see running around town, Lee. Turns out he is on the team with that girl Tenten and Niji. Naruto nodded and the silence after Choji finished just went on. Naruto then noticed something. Choji, I gotta go take care of a few things. I just got back from a mission and I am a little ripe. I'll stop back in later on to see how things are going. Choji nodded. He had not wanted to tell Naruto he reeked but was glad the blonde was developing social skills and noticed it himself. Thanks Naruto. Take care. The blonde headed out to go get cleaned up and eat. The following morning, Naruto and Sakura stood next to Kakashi in front of the Hokage. I have been considering who would make a good fit as a third person on your team. There are not many at the moment. For now, I want to evaluate Uchiha Sasuke as possibly being the last member of your team. He requested being moved and everyone else on his current team endorsed it. He has been disruptive and is not a team player, but he is a highly skilled genin. Kakashi, I know you failed the genin on Team 7 6 months ago, but I want to see how the originally planned Team 7 works out. Kakashi nodded, but all 3 people facing the Hokage had a bad feeling about this. Next chapter. Rage of the Uchiha. Endnotes. For the new outfits, make Naruto's classic orange outfit a dark gray and use the Shippuden neckline on it. Sakura is basically in just below the knee black spandex pants with very little equipment on her legs. She has the standard kunai and shuriken pouches, but more of her stuff is in the equipment belt and chest area pouches. This frees her legs since most of her taijutsu attacks are kick-based. She is also wearing the ninja equivalent of hobnailed boots for increased impact. I cut this chapter off sooner than I had originally planned because the build up to the possible reunification of the Plant Team 7. I try for a 5,000 word chapter with some overrun. It took much longer than my outline called for to get to the point I stopped at. I wanted to show the underlying tension in Konoha around Naruto and Sakura as well as show off a few of their skills. They are by no means uber, but they are much better than the average genin. If they fought Kakashi full out seriously, they might surprise him for a few seconds but would still lose. In skill, I would place them at low hand-to-hand since that is the main area of their military training. Together they would be able to take down a solo easily or have a reasonable chance of defeating a rookie in a one-on-one situation. They still lack the flashier high-powered we normally see in the manga without having learned smaller, more useful ones. For anyone wanting to keep track, the 5 teams that made it through the second part of the Chunin exam were Sand Siblings, Team 10, Team Guy, the team from Sound, and a military ninja squad from Konoha. Sadly the obscure team got some kudos for getting there, but they got beat down by Niji, Kankuro and Dosu. Chapter 11. Rage of the Uchiha. Naruto was very quiet once the team left the Hokage's office. His mind went back to the last time he had seen Sasuke, the day he had failed the Genin exam. Sasuke had just sneered at him and walked past muttering, "Loser." He had tried to make himself the rival of Sasuke back then, but no matter what he did, the Uchiha had a counter for it. It never looked like Sasuke was even trying very hard either. He would leave Naruto lying in the dirt and go back to his trying to do some fancy move. Sakura noticed Naruto's funk right away and knew why. She had been such a shallow girl back then. No matter what happened she would take Sasuke's side and degrade Naruto after a failure. With how she taunted the blonde, she was surprised he still had always tried to impress her and treat her well. Sakura quietly spoke up when the team got to a training field. "I'm sorry Naruto. I was such a bitch to you back in the academy. You didn't deserve anything I said to you then." Naruto smiled weakly to his friend. "Don't worry about it, Sakura-chan. I forgave all of that a long time ago. You're not the same immature person you were then. We both learned from our mistakes and are better than we were then. Then how about tomorrow we show that prima donna just how much better we are when we pull that stick out of his butt and beat him with it," Sakura said with an evil grin. Naruto was shocked to hear Sakura talk like that, but his smile was one of the most honest and grateful Sakura had ever seen on his face. Kakashi looked at his team. "Why don't we skip practice today? Be here in the morning at 7:30. The Hokage told Sasuke to be there at 8 o'clock for his tryout. Sakura and Naruto both nodded. He turned to leave when Sakura called after him, "Naruto. Do you want to grab something to eat and discuss what we are going to do tomorrow?" "Sure," Naruto said with a grin. A few minutes before 8 o'clock the next morning, Uchiha Sasuke was grumbling as he entered the training field. "I hope this team is not as much of a pack of losers as the last team," he thought as he looked around. "No one here. Someone should at least be waiting for me to arrive." In the trees that bordered the training field, 5 eyes watched him closely. The 3 people using those eyes were not even well hidden, but they were still unnoticed. "His awareness is terrible," Sakura commented. "Even Naruto could have spotted us by now." Naruto looked over at her and she smiled and stuck her tongue out at him. Naruto smiled back. He knew she was kidding and her comment held no malice. Kakashi spoke up, "Let's get this test going, shall we?" He pulled out a kunai with an explosive tag attached and hurled it at the unsuspecting Uchiha. Sasuke noticed some movement in the trees and focused on a kunai speeding at him. He jumped off to one side and looked back to see the tag explode. He was shoved from behind. Remedial lesson number 1. Don't watch a tag explode. Look for the person who threw it, a muffled girl's voice said as he whirled around and drew a kunai. He only saw a glimpse of a leg as the person moved around behind him again. On the ground was another explosive note. He jumped backwards only to take a kick to the spine as he landed. The blow made him drop his kunai. Remedial lesson number 2. Never move without looking if you don't know what is there when you are going to land, a boy's voice spoke. Sasuke was getting angry and spun to see a glimpse of blonde hair vanish into the trees. He growled at being attacked like this and his hands began flashing through signs and ended with the tiger. Katen. Gu. Arg. Pain lashed through his thigh as something hard rammed into it which gave him a charley horse and collapsed his leg. Remedial lesson number 3. Never stand still in the middle of a battle and cast an obvious. Sasuke rolled back to his feet to see the pink-haired Sakura standing there with her arms crossed and his dropped kunai in her hand. Her smirk was an obvious copy of his from the academy. He was about to lunge forward when a kunai pressed against his neck. A voice behind him said in his ear, remedial lesson number 4. When opponents are equal, proper teamwork will always trump individual effort. You're dead. That's enough, Naruto. I think the point was made, Kakashi said. They noticed the sneer on Sasuke's face. At least I hope the point was made. Naruto stepped back out of arm's reach from Sasuke and put his kunai away. The blonde then circled around to Kakashi. Sakura moved from the other side. The entire time they moved they never took their eyes off Sasuke or moved close enough for a quick attack from him. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the trio before him. You mean I am going to have 2 academy failures and who failed my first team as my new team? Kakashi smiled at the arrogant boy. Actually, we are going to be testing you to see if you're good enough to be joining their team. Sasuke sneered. I doubt these losers could keep up with me. Naruto chuckled, why would we want to go backwards? You're the one who needs to catch up to us if you want to be on our team, Sasuke. Anytime, anywhere, Naruto. The only way you have a chance against me is a sneak attack like you just made, Sasuke growled. Kakashi held up his hand. No fighting between you without my permission. There will always be a third person to judge or be able to get help. Is that understood, Sasuke? Sasuke just crossed his arms and grunted, HN. Kakashi stepped closer to Sasuke, I asked, is that understood, Sasuke? Sasuke glared. Yes, he finally said after some 30 seconds passed. Kakashi nodded, since you are being evaluated, we can move right into the daily exercises. Sakura and Naruto nodded and immediately took off jogging at a fast pace. Sasuke continued to stand there with his arms crossed. Kakashi looked at the dark-haired boy, waiting for a personal invitation. The Uchiha glare had no effect on Kakashi, so Sasuke finally started moving after the other two. Naruto and Sakura led the jog on a winding course toward the training center they were very familiar with. Sasuke followed along and got slightly winded at the pace the pair set. Kakashi followed along behind Sasuke humming a happy tune. Once they reached the obstacle course, the pair stopped and waited for Sasuke and Kakashi. There was a new class of remedial trainees at the course. Naruto and Sakura both bowed respectfully to the healed Ito. Ito nodded his head in reply and walked over. Come to keep in shape. Naruto smiled, I come almost every day. I want the course record. Sakura spoke up next, we are evaluating a possible new teammate. We need to know what he can do so we know how much training he needs. Sasuke came up puffing. Kakashi had stopped him and told him he couldn't use chakra to bolster his metabolism while running. Naruto and Sakura weren't. If he was using chakra while running, it was considered cheating during exercise. Ito looked over at Sasuke and commented, wasn't he Rookie of the Year for your class? Naruto gave a small nod. Wow, low standards up there in elite for clan folk, Ito said. He looked back at his class who were just watching this. Push-ups. He yelled at them. The entire class got down and began doing the push-ups and counting off in sync. Sasuke had caught his breath by now and grumbled, what are we doing down here in the military ninja section? Sakura muttered, how did I ever like this fool? She turned to face Sasuke. This is the next part of your evaluation. All military ninja have to complete this obstacle course to pass. Since you are so much better than us, how about you do it to prove it? Ito understood what Naruto and Sakura were doing now. Class, that's enough push-ups. I want all of you to stand and observe how Uchiha Sasuke completes the advanced obstacle course. Sasuke flushed red and looked over the course. He had no clue how to do this thing. They were doing this to intentionally humiliate him. Sakura walked past Sasuke, I'll go first and you can see how it's done. She started walking up the 20 feet vertical wall to ring a bell, then back down at the same speed. Next, she walked across the water pool and lay on the platform on the far side before crawling across the water in a different direction under some bars. She came to a rope and took hold of it with her hands and lifted her legs out straight in front of her body. Then she climbed the rope like that using only her arms. Sakura rang a bell at the top of the rope before dropping to another platform. She descended down a series of 2-inch wide vertical poles by stepping on the top of each one. The descent could be jarring as each pole was 3 feet away and 3 feet lower than the previous one. Once on the ground, Sakura needed to jump and grasp a horizontal bar, do a single chin-up and then drop until she had straight arms. Once there she needed to pull herself back up and hook a leg over the bar and get on top of it to stand and jump to another horizontal bar higher up and repeat the process 4 times up to the top of a tower. A rope descent over the water pool with her hands pulling and her ankles linked over the rope got her back to the ground. At the final obstacle she had to lift her feet and hang from a platform via chakra in her feet and do 20 vertical sit-ups counting off each one. After finishing the final sit-up she dropped to the ground and sprinted for a bell to signal completion. Sasuke just stared like an idiot. How the hell did that fangirl manage to do all of that? She had not just walked across water, she had crawled across water and not gotten wet. Sakura returned and got a high five from Naruto. Her time was a good 15 seconds below the posted maximum allowed time and she had not even been pushing herself. Nice time. Not close to my best, but you never pushed to beat that, Naruto said with a smile. Sakura blushed lightly at the praise. Your turn, Sasuke, Sakura said smiling at the genius. Sasuke got an angry look on his face. You're trying to embarrass me, aren't you? He hissed. Ito sent the class off to do laps so they would not hear what was going to come. He nodded to Kakashi and took off after his charges. No, they aren't, Kakashi said once the remedial class had left. They are showing you how much you need to do to catch up to them. Things you should have learned over the past 6 months under your sensei but that you refused to do. You just were focusing on high-ranked and fancy kunai tricks. I looked over his evaluation on your skills. You're behind even the most basic military side graduate right now. Your chakra levels have barely changed since the academy. Your control is a bit better and that allows for your fire strength to increase and make you think you are getting stronger. But since you refuse to do the physical things that increase chakra, you are falling further and further behind your peers. But I need to be strong to beat my brother. Sasuke yelled. I need to activate my Sharingan and defeat him to avenge my family. So, you want to be strong enough to beat an Anbu level ninja who killed an entire clan of Uchiha, but you don't want to work hard at making yourself better. That is never going to happen, Sasuke. Eyes are only as good as the body they are a part of, Kakashi continued. Your arrogance and superiority complex hold you back. You focus everything you have and everything you are on the pipe dream of killing your brother. The fact that you refuse to see is that you are not even on the same level he was at the age you are now. Now he is another 5 years older and another 5 years better and you still haven't matched his age 10 level. If you trained properly you might have. If you asked for help, you might have. Making your fireball stronger will not defeat Itachi. Making fancy knife throwing tricks will not defeat Itachi. Blaming others or saying they are holding you back are excuses you're making, Sasuke. The only person holding back Uchiha Sasuke is Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke was red-faced and growling at Kakashi now. The man had to be lying. Shut up. He yelled. You're trying to confuse me. You're just trying to hold me back like everyone else is. When I failed Team 7, I recommended that you get treatment for mental issues, Sasuke. Itachi did something to your head when he left. You were in a coma for a week after he killed your entire clan. Then you never took up a single offer for help. You never said what he did to you. Sasuke was holding his head now as the words of Itachi were beginning to sound in his mind. You are not even worth killing. Foolish little brother, if you wish to kill me, hate me, detest me, and survive in an unsightly way. Run and cling to life. And one day, when you have the same eyes as I do, come before me. He said I need to have the same eyes he did, the highest level of Sharingan. When I had it I would be able to face him, Sasuke finally admitted. Now you know why I need to get stronger. That is why I need strength and training. Naruto was barely keeping himself from jumping the supposed genius in front of him. Strong is useless unless you have the basic skills to back them up, he said instead. Sasuke turned to look at Naruto still red-faced from yelling at Kakashi. He didn't have to take anything from the dead last. Then fight me and I'll prove I have the skills to back it up,